This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Friday and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. We got a packed Friday show heading into a massive weekend. The Montreal Canadiens and Patrik Laine in town tomorrow night, 6 p.m. start for a big Hockey Night in Canada game here in the Peg. Should be a great one. We're actually going to head out to Montreal, talk a little bit about Laine's return, a little bit about the Four Nations and more with Shaun Starr, our old colleague on TSN 690 in Montreal. He's doing some great stuff on YouTube as well. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. Massive slate in the National Football League coming up on Sunday and Monday. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton will pop by with his NFL notebook. But the majority of the show is going to be dominated by the latest on the Winnipeg Jets, who lost a tough one yesterday in overtime to the Vegas Golden Knights. Many different ways to look at last night's game, and we'll try and get to all of those angles. Myself and Michael, and then Ken Wiebe, Wiebe's World himself, will jump on in about half an hour, and we'll get Kenny's thoughts on last night and a look ahead to tomorrow against Laine and the Montreal Canadiens. Just before we bring Michael Remis in and get into this tilt that happened last night and much more, a huge thanks to all the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen. Folks, you know how much we appreciate their support, and I know so many of you do. If you have the opportunity right now at a time that you're getting ready to make a few purchases for Christmas, support our sponsors if you're able to. We wouldn't be able to do this show without them. Of course, our friends at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada. Don't forget that. Hockey Canada Ultimate 50-50 draw is on right now. There's a link in the description for that. We'll tell you about that a little bit later on. Roldy's Transfer, Manitoba Battery, F Apparel, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, and of course the Winnipeg Jets. And we will get to a why not question of the day for our friends at Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get Remis in here and start talking about last night's game. Remo, what's up? How are you?
Feeling good heading into the weekend. Holidays coming up, doing a lot of planning, gift giving. I did see Royal Sports got this incredible hat wall of every NHL team in New Era hats. That's new for this year. But excited. Jets game last night, Vegas, big game. Didn't go the way that you thought, but it went the same way the last 8 games in the regular season against Vegas have, with the Jets loss. Entertaining game, but really looking forward to Saturday's game. Next couple Saturdays at Canada Life Center. We got the 21st for the WST night, holiday game as well. So, the Jets did not pick up a win, but it's not dictating my mood as we head into the weekend. Maybe the cold will. It is freezing out there, -30.
Yeah.
Or 22.
Well, listen, it's a little bit nicer today, and I think it's going to get nicer on the weekend, and thank God for that. I joke with Lawless that it's been so beautiful. We saved the 2 -30 days for when you and the Vegas Golden Knights came to town. There were a few people from Vegas that made up for the game. My God, that must have been a real eye-opener, because that was the hardcore Winnipeg winter these last couple days. I mean, when you're pushing -30 and everyone is just basically doing the sprint from a door to a car to a door to get inside, I guess they got the full experience. And listen, they got a game that they certainly would have been happy with the way that their team played, the visitors. I mean, listen, I think you can really look at this game as a glass half full or a glass half empty. did the Jets deserve to beat the Vegas Golden Knights last night based on the 60-plus minutes of action? Probably not. I mean, I think Vegas was... I mean, listen, that was a vintage road game by an elite team in the National Hockey League. And, the Jets, for a good portion of the night, were chasing. We're trying to get the puck from Vegas. And listen, that's something they do really well. Their cycle was awesome last night, and it created far more scoring opportunities for them than for the Winnipeg Jets. And the Jets went through, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, an incredibly long time without very many shots. Like, they had a little flurry at the end of the second period. And thank God for that, because with about a minute left in the second, I think they had 7 shots in the entire game. And listen, you're not winning many games, especially against great teams like Vegas. That being said, I do think that, the Jets worked really hard to try to limit, to stay within their structure, to try and limit what Vegas was able to do offensively. Connor Hellebuyck made some big saves, which certainly inevitably happens. And the Jets, for their part, were pretty darn opportunistic. Listen, it was great to see Nikita Chibrikov score again. I mean, Mr. Automatic, 3 games in the NHL, 3 goals, does it every night. Tough to keep a young man like that producing the way he is out of the lineup. And that, of course, was a rebound goal. So, I mean, half of the Jets' shots in the first period, with which they had 4, came on that one single play where they got the goal. Josh Morrissey's goal in the third period was phenomenal. That brought people out of the seats. A seeing eye shot that literally had to be exactly where it was if it wanted to go in. Which made the end of the game that much more disappointing. I mean, could you argue that Vegas probably shouldn't have been in the deficit that they were? Sure, but that wasn't the case. So, Remis, it's not surprising that on the post-game shows and in the discourse amongst Jet fans, it's not a lot of focus on the first 57 minutes, but a lot of focus on not one, but 2 Jet penalties that put them down 5-on-3 with the game on the line. And obviously, we know that the Vegas Golden Knights made an incredible play to beat Connor Hellebuyck and to get that one to overtime.
Oh, yeah, and look, when you're at that point, Huss, at the dying minutes of a game, it's irrelevant what happened, the 57 minutes before that to get you there. Yeah, the Jets, didn't have their best game, as you said, not able to generate many chances, even many shots, aside from the play by Nikita Chibrikov, who's now on a pace for, how long is his career going to be so we can make the joke? He's on pace for however many goals after scoring 3 goals in 3 games. But you asked, yeah. I
loved Liz last night. She just tweeted a picture of Chibrikov and just said, "Watch out at OV8."
Yeah.
Goal every game.
The Jets tweeted on pace for 895 goals. Why not shoot high and just go for on pace for the record? But Josh Morrissey, after the game, they're like, Sean Reynolds asked him, so what was it about your defensive structure that let you stay in this one? And his response, Helly. Connor Hellebuyck, this was the Helly show yesterday, stopping 33 of 36. And in a game where you had so many players that are going to be in the 4 nations on Vegas and on Winnipeg, you had Connor Hellebuyck, keeping them in it. Credit to Josh Morrissey for that bomb of a shot. Man, was that a rocket, Huss, giving me flashbacks to last year against St. Louis, the Let's Effing Go game. And I thought, okay, they're going to do it. They're going to slay the dragon here, as they haven't, they won 1 game in the playoffs, but they've lost 7 straight in regular season heading into that. Was not to be, to take a couple penalties. I loved listening to CJOB's broadcast. Mitch Clinton, I think, feeling what any Jets fan watching that game felt. I think
do you have the clip?
I do have the clip. I want to play it here, and I don't want to blame, yeah, they could have played better for a full 60, but, I think it's disappointing the way that it ended there. I'll just play the audio of the clip without the video, but here's how it sounded on CJOB as Dylan DeMello took a penalty to, let the Jets 5-on-3 in that, late in the third period.
In the corner, but Vegas will get there first. Sit back toward the line. Another penalty coming up. Or no, there is going to be a penalty, and to the bench goes Aiden Hill. It's touched by Winnipeg. And that came on a body check, trying to win a puck battle, and it's going to Dylan DeMello.
Great time for the whistle to come back out.
Winnipeg number 2, minor penalty for tripping.
Tripping call on a puck battle in that corner after that body check.
Sure, I guess. Like he's going to play the puck is DeMello, and it ends up taking the legs out. Now that one tough because it puts you on a 5-on-3. It's a really tough call to make.
Yeah, there were some groans. There were some groans in the arena and in the broadcast booth last night. And shout out to Mitch for basically giving the radio listening audience a feeling of every single person that was pulling for the Jets last night. You know, that was a really tough one. I think the penalty, and we'll hear from Arneal afterwards, you made a point of mentioning, like the Gabe Vilardi penalty, you cannot take that penalty 200 feet from your own net at that point in the game. So, I mean, that sort of started it, and it just snowballed with the DeMello play. And listen, I will say I think there was many similar plays that could have been easily called earlier in the game that weren't, which made it that much more frustrating. But listen, the Vegas Golden Knights never let up last night. And, they sometimes will force you to do things that end up biting you in the ass, and that's exactly what happened last night.
I watched that play a couple times over and over, trying to figure out like how he hit Stone with the puck's in the corner. I think he's just going to play the puck, and Stone was right there, and the stick hit Stone's legs, and he fell. I didn't think it was like he played the puck. Like, how could he trip him? And as you said, like stuff like that happens all the time throughout the game, and usually you got to do something pretty egregious for them to make it a 5-on-3. That's just how it is, and I don't know. I guess they saw Stone fall and called a penalty, but even Kevin Sawyer on the TSN broadcast, he didn't think there was a penalty either, which a disappointing finish, Huss, when you think the Jets, trying to hang on there.
Well, I mean, listen, it was one thing to be down 5-on-4. It's another ball of wax. Is Stone okay after he fell? Does he need to go back on LTIR? Nice one, Cruiser.
That's a good one.
A 5-on-3 is just such a different beast. And, the way they were throwing the puck around, Olofsson made that great shot. What was my biggest concern, Remis, is that game was going to turn from 2-1 to 3-2 in regulation. And, it was very, very close to being exactly that. When I know Ken mentioned, I was obviously at the game, so I didn't see the replay. But Ken mentioned he thought Hayden Fleury got just a little bit of a stick on Olofsson, who almost scored again on the 5-on-4, and that would have been an absolutely devastating result last night. Regardless of the way the first 57 minutes went, with Vegas carrying the play, you're up at that point with 3 minutes left in your own building. Listen, you've got to get 2 points. They weren't able to do that, but you cannot end up with 0. And they did exactly that. And I think, you look back at last night, as much as Vegas was, the better team and had the puck and, everything that we've just said, if you do an autopsy on the pucks that went in the Jets net, a lot of it was self-inflicted. Like the first goal, the goal that tied the game, 3-4 minutes into the third period, 2 things happened on that play, Remis. First of all, and again, you weren't there, so you wouldn't know, but anyone that was at the building probably noticed this. And I'm hanging this on balls and the production staff. About maybe 10 seconds before the game was tied up, a graphic was shown on the scoreboard that the Jets are 15-0-0 when leading after the second period.
No. No.
It was right there. It was like this guy has not missed an extra point in the last 5 years, and boom, the thing goes right and misses. So that was that was karmically unfortunate. But I will say this. Logan Stanley had a real tough time managing the puck. The entire team did. They just had a tough time getting it out. But that puck got up to Kyle Connor. He had it on his stick. And, and I think this goes back to what had led up to him getting it in the position that he did But he lost it right to Keegan Colasar. And I said audibly, oh bleep, when that happened. And not 2 seconds later, that thing was coming out of the back of the net. And man, the hometown kid, Keegan Colasar, one of many Manitobans on that team, always seems to have a big game. He was the first star of the game last night. So, I mean, that was totally avoidable. If they just manage that puck a little bit better and are able to get it out, we're maybe having a very different conversation. And then, of course, the OT winner for Vegas was really unfortunate. It was a play that just never should have happened. I mean, Hayden Fleury, who has been doing so many good things for the Jets, we mentioned probably saved that game from being lost in regulation with this play on the PK at the end, has full control of the puck. There's nobody on him. And, the Jets go and make that change. And it was just miscommunication, poor timing. Next thing you know, it's a 2-on-1, and they get it over, and Barbashev ends it right now. But I will say this. I think the Jets should probably be happy, big picture, looking back at that game, that they got a point. They certainly lament taking the penalties and not finishing it off in regulation and getting 2. But based on the way the game was played, I will tend to be happy that the team was able to get 1, knowing that in a lot of other cases, if you play that game the way that it was played 10 times, more often than not, you're probably getting 0. And how about this, Remis? As disappointing as Jet fans were walking out of the game last night, their moods probably picked up when they went and checked out the out-of-town scoreboard and what else happened in the Central Division last night. So the Jets blow that lead, killing penalties, and end up losing 3-2. They get a point. Their first overtime or shootout loss of the season. Meanwhile, our friends, the Minnesota Wild, got absolutely stomped by the Oilers at home. Edmonton winning 7-1. The Dallas Stars end up losing 4-1 at home to the Nashville Predators, who win for the first time since they beat the Jets in mid-November and get their 8th win of the season. They were a huge underdog. And then the Colorado Avalanche lose at home to the Utah Hockey Club. Oh, and while we're at it, let's not forget about the St. Louis Blues, who've been playing a bit better as of late under their new coach. They lose at home in regulation to the San Jose Sharks. So despite the disappointment and the bitter taste of not being able to close it out and losing an OT, the Jets actually gained a point on all of their rivals, Minnesota, Dallas, Colorado, and Utah, and St. Louis, I should say. The only team that made up any ground last night was the Utah Hockey Club and, of course, the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't so bad, and it is a bit conflicting. Like, the Jets did not play their best game. You could argue they didn't deserve a point, but you could also say, hey, you know what? They were in it. They probably should have got 2. Unfortunate, but they avoided a worst-case scenario. Hayden Fleury just getting in there. I think it went off his shaft, that Olofsson chance with 2 seconds left in the power play. And, yeah, that first one is tough. They were hemmed in for a while. There was a chance, right before the giveaway at the line, Kyle Connor tried to chip it out and couldn't. They got hemmed in again. And, they kept just trying to get it out, Huss, and they just were not able to. And Keegan Colasar, something about these Winnipeg players on Vegas when they come here, they put up goals. We'll never forget Ryan Reeves in the Western Conference Final, and it was Colasar yesterday, and just a really nice play in overtime off a unfortunate line change there by the Jets. But the 2-on-1, and it is Barbashev with the OT winner, and Barbashev's biggest fan, Ken Wiebe, coming up later on this show, and you're looking at the NHL,
bringing the gold pom-poms on, just like the girls in the aisles. I'm joking, of course, but he's pumped Barbashev's tires for a long time, and he looked pretty good last night.
That is a nice silver lining, though. Has everyone lost, and you look at the standings, there they are, Winnipeg Jets, first in the NHL, 43 points. However, they do have 3 games in hand on Washington, 2 on Minnesota and Vegas. But they're certainly right up there in terms of points percentage. They are 4th in the league. So they put themselves in a nice position, but you'd like to see more performances where they stick to their game. they had on Tuesday against Boston, or maybe they weren't attacking as much, or weren't able to get through Vegas, which makes it so difficult to get to those hard areas in front of that. They're able to on that first goal, but as you mentioned, the shots, just chances not there for the first two periods.
Well, and just quickly on the Wild, as bad as it was to get humbled like that, losing 7-1 in front of your home fans, even worse is that one of their workhorses, Jake Middleton, is out long-term. He's been put on LTIR. He's going to have surgery on his finger, it sounds like, and, will be out for a month at least. And there's worry that it might be longer than that. That's a big, big loss for Minnesota. Listen, before Ken joins us, let's get some reaction from last night's game. We'll start it off with the head coach, Scott Arniel, and what he thought and how he saw those two crucial penalties that his team took in the final 3 minutes.
We asked Dylan DeMello about the second penalty there that put you guys down 5-on-3. He felt that there's a lot that maybe gets let go in a game. Safe to say you probably disagreed with that call as well?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Gabe's was a penalty. 200 feet from our net, that was a penalty. Not talking about the other one. I think just they have their power play with 2 minutes to go. Anyways, it was just the first one was a penalty.
So there you go. Not complaining about the Velarde. And listen, when Scott Arniel comes out and says that was a penalty and then reinforces it with 200 feet from our net, you can just tell the way he feels about that. Unnecessary, and you just simply can't do that. I mean, you have to have... You hate to take those penalties at any time, but at such a crucial point of a one-goal game with the team that was pushing on it, that was a tough one for Gabe Velarde, and I'm sure that was a long period in the box before he ended up leaving. Listen, the overtime, the Jets actually controlled the puck pretty much the entire time, which made losing in that fashion so disappointing. Because it was basically a miscommunication and a turnover. Here's what Arnie had to say about the trading of chances in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give up a 2-on-1. I think that, that predominantly the whole overtime we had the puck, which is, which you like to do and you like to have. I mean, it'd be nice if we got a couple more attempts at the goaltender, but, we made, probably a bad decision, with the puck, and we were kind of on a line change and caught it. We got caught, so.
Now, we'll get to the overall performance of the team and what was maybe different from the Boston game to the Vegas game. But on a real positive note, Nikita Chibrikov with another goal, 2 in 2 games this season, 3 in 3 as a National Hockey leader. Here's what Scott Arniel had to say about young number 90 continuing to make an impression during his stint up here with the big club.
Well, I think that he's, growing. He's learning every game, every shift. It's, I think for me, I like the player. I like the way like I mentioned last game, he's competitive. He goes to those areas. He drove to that net on that goal tonight. He does a lot of good things, and a lot of times you're concerned that maybe, without the puck, he might be a liability, but that line, they had lots of good looks, and they had some zone time, and that's what you hope that when a guy like that goes in there.
Is it rare for a player to be, playing that way so early on in their initial career? There's usually an adjustment period, but it seems like all those intangibles, he's kind of hit right on the head. Yeah,
he had a good season last year, and he gained confidence from it. Got to play a game with us at the end of the year. Thought he was really good in training camp. We used him in a lot of, top 6 roles, and he's taking advantage of the opportunity that's been put in front of him. And that's that's all you ask the players there. We'll give you the chance, and it's yours to go out and take, and he's doing a pretty good job with it.
He certainly is making the most of the opportunity, and we'll see how long that lasts, whether they feel like they've got to keep him up. There was good news today at practice. Nikolai Ehlers joining the fellas in a non-contact jersey. So I don't believe that he'll probably play tomorrow. I think that's highly unlikely. But, you would think that if he's back at practice, very much on track to be back with the club when they hit San Jose and Anaheim next week for those late games on the West Coast. We're going to talk about this with Ken. I do think that You know, part of the reason why the Jets maybe had less offense was that they were so focused on their defensive structure. You know, we remember how the game ended and got away from them, tied 3-3 in the third period a few weeks ago in Vegas. It was getting away from that, and, you know, one mistake, and the next thing you know, it's in the back of your net. So they did seem to be very focused on that. I think it kind of took away a little bit from what they were able to do offensively, but, you know, they were committed to it, and listen, they were up. Then with the game, you know, in full control, well, not as much full control, but, you know, 3 minutes left, up 1 goal. You'll take that every time. Obviously, it was the power plays that ended up being the issue. And Arneal kind of talked about the Jets being in that game and in that position late, despite obviously not being at their best with such a quality opponent on the other side.
Yeah, obviously, Helly made some stops. We did a pretty good job. A lot came from the outside. And, you know, they're a big team that tries to get inside on us. And I just thought when we did have opportunities, when it went the other way, I didn't think we attacked like they attacked. The shot attempts, I think, were almost double in this game. And we just, you know, had talked about the success we had against Boston, and we got into attack mode. And there was times tonight, again, where we had 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, where, you know, as simple as, you know, Vladdy coming off the wing, shooting that puck off the pad, and Chibi throwing in the rebound. Some of those, that's kind of more the mindset that we have to have. Teams like Vegas, they don't let you just come inside easily. It's hard to get in there, and so you need to take the shots to break down that sort of coverage that they're throwing at you and get them to spread themselves out. And I didn't think we did enough of that in the first 2 periods.
One more from Arnie, and I mean, listen, 2 very different games, from the 8-1 thumping of the Bruins on Tuesday to 3-2 overtime loss. But we kind of talked about, you know, and compared the way that they played against Boston with what happened last night against the Knights. You
know, they're always 2 different opponents. You know, these guys, you know, they're a team, a veteran team that's won, and you know, you got to kind of, you know, when teams, you get away from some of the things that you want to do on a consistent basis, you just keep pounding it home. You keep trying to make sure that guys recognize that, you know, there's a way we need to play to create offense, a way we need to play to, you know, defending, not allow the opposition opportunities. And yeah, for me, it's our team's pretty good at recognize when we don't play the way we need to, and hopefully that's for next game will be a heck of a lot better.
Well, listen, a practice today and a chance to get right back at it against the Montreal Canadiens tomorrow night at Canada Life Centre. Here's Dylan DeMello on the penalty he took in those final minutes that put the Jets down 5-3.
Dylan, do you just chalk that up to some maybe bad luck in terms of the tripping penalty, obviously right after the initial penalty there?
Yep. Yeah, definitely unfortunate. Yeah, he, you know, I've seen guys do a lot worse and not get a call. So that's a tough pill to swallow. You know, we all know at the end of games or overtime, it's got to be pretty egregious to be a penalty. He deemed it so.
I guess in that sense, so once they get the 5-on-3, penalty killers did a good job to kill off what was still a fairly lengthy 5-on-4.
Yeah, I mean, they did the best they could. They got put in a very tough situation with, you know, with those 2 tripping calls. So I don't put the blame on them. They did a great job after, you know, to kill that last one, that 5-on-4, and get it to overtime.
All right, here's a little bit more from DeMello. This is just what he didn't like about the game last night, and then touches on the performance of Nikita Chibrikov, who scored again last night.
Execution on the outside. We're getting shots. I thought Vegas had a really good game structure. They made it really hard to get through. But yeah, that was. I thought they played really good, and we didn't really match that. And then I thought third period was better.
What have you made of Nikita Chibrikov's, you know, play? He's obviously a goal-bringing pace and has been involved in everywhere, not even just the goal scoring. What have you seen?
Yeah, he's, you know, obviously he's a smaller guy, but he's stocky. He's strong on his skates. He's willing to go into those dirty areas. You know, he took a few licks tonight, but he's the guy to, you know, get first on the puck and get it out and take a hit to make a play. So he's fearless out there. He's got a good knack for the net, and, you know, he's been rewarded for going to the net and getting a couple goals.
All right, so there's Dylan DeMello, and let's hear from Josh Morrissey as well. This is what Josh thought about the game overall, that included an absolute rocket from him to put the Jets up 2-1 in that third period.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't like our first 2 periods. You know, they're obviously a very good team, and but we're still up 1-0 going to the third, and you know, 1-1, make it 2-1, and you know, did a decent job throughout the third period, I thought, of trying to play our game when we didn't really have our best stuff in the first two. Obviously tough ending with the penalties there at the end of the game. It obviously was a tough situation. Couldn't get done, OT.
All right, so there's Josh Morris. You might have a little bit more Josh a little bit later on, but Ken's just about ready to roll in. We'll bring him in. Folks, do not forget, tickets are on sale now for Canada's Ultimate 50-50, the biggest power play yet for Hockey Canada and, of course, Hockey Manitoba. We've all been jealous looking at those massive pools of those World Junior 50-50s. Well, Manitoba is in on it, and it all goes to support grassroots hockey initiatives right here in the province. The Ultimate 50-50 draw is up right now. There's a link in the description. You can also go to hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com and get your tickets. You've got options to get a single bullet all the way up to 999 tickets. Of course, 50% of the pot goes to the Manitoba winner, and the other 50% goes to grassroots hockey initiatives to grow the game here in our province. So certainly for a great cause, and we know how big some of those pots can get in and around the holidays. There's 3 draws. The first draw is the opening of the World Junior, December 26th. So jump on those tickets right now, hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. And you can also, if you're with us on YouTube, just click the description in the video and jump in on that. Big happy holidays to our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Family owned and operated in Winnipeg for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving and storage around. And while we get ready to celebrate with family over the next few weeks, if you and your family are on the move to a new destination in 2025, get ready for it and get the white glove treatment from the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, Rolly's, doing it now into their 7th decade. What you're going to want to do is check out their great website at rollys.com. Top right corner, click on that request an estimate, put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. Let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And one of the friendly staff from Rolly's will get in touch with you ASAP with a great quote to get you locked in and take as much of the stress out of the moving process as possible. Rolly's, for over 60 years here in Winnipeg, moving Manitobans to their next destination. For your next move, make it Rolly's. Find out more or request an estimate today over at rollys.com. A couple real deep freeze days here in the Peg. And you know Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery were busy. And it's a great time to remind you that this Christmas, give a gift that matters with the help of Manitoba Battery. Don't let your loved ones get stranded in the cold with a vehicle that won't start. Make sure they're equipped to handle what's ever thrown at them this winter with gifts like a NOCO 1,000 amp booster pack for only $139.50, or get them a set of 25-foot booster cables for just $65. Or maybe you want to treat yourself to a great deal and grab that ice fishing flasher battery you need, or that sled battery that needs to be replaced. All at the best prices in the city. You can count on that 24/7, 365, beating the pants off the big box stores. Give a gift that matters this Christmas with the help of Manitoba Battery. Find out more at manitobabattery.com, now with 2 locations to serve you, Logan Avenue and Dovercourt Drive, the bottom of on the south side of the city. And a shout out to our friends at F Apparel. Christmas is just around the corner as we get ready. If the guy on your Christmas list could maybe use a little upgrade in his menswear game, give the gift of F Apparel, custom men's clothing. And right now, any gift card of $100 or more is going to get juiced up with another 15%. So take advantage of a little free money on those gift cards and get looking great for 2025 at F Apparel. Gift cards and more available in-store at 190 Smith Street downtown. You can get them as well and check out everything F has going on online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. And again, the gift card sale going right up until Christmas at 190 Smith Street. All right, let's welcome in our pal, Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. who joins us now. Wiebe, good stuff. You have a good time in the Twin Cities. Just missed you yesterday, but what a game last Sunday.
Yeah, buddy. Great. Apologies for not recognizing that Tom's Urban Watch Bar was right around the corner from where I was actually staying. A bit of a double bogey on the Wiebe train there. But
shout out to them for getting. You know what? It was in the middle of NFL Sunday. You got all these crazy games, and they still were able to get us the Jets and Columbus Blue Jackets on a television. So not the cheapest place to go and have a few beers and something to eat, but they nailed it with getting the game on for us. And
I mean, what a Vikings game before that, Huss. I mean, wild stuff. Not a lot of 6 TD specials and 5 through the air, and lots of people fired up. Sam Darnold showing a little bit of emotion, sort of showing up the former quarterback. The Vikings fans were quite relentless and I would almost say ruthless, Huss, in terms of there was only a little bit of golf clapping for Mr. Cousins. Otherwise, the Boo Birds were out in full force. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't appreciate what he did when he was with the Vikings, but they certainly have thrown their support behind the current Vikings quarterback, who had quite a day with 5 through the air, Huss.
Dude, Sammy Darts was on one. I mean, Addison and Jefferson had big games. Maybe the best part of the entire game, though, was Cam Bynum and what's his name recreating the dance routine from White Chicks after that pick. I mean, I've never seen a celebration like that before. And I guess the Vikings put out a thing that had them, working on it. A lot of work goes into the choreography. And hey, I tell you what, if your defensive players are able to do it in the end zone, that means good things are happening. And pretty cool to see Sammy Darts get the serenaded by the MVP chants at the end of the game. But let's get to the Jets from last night, and I definitely want to talk about tomorrow's game as well. Shaun Starr, by the way, is coming up from Montreal in a few minutes, and he'll break down Patrick Laine's debut in Montreal and how that team is looking, coming off a 9-2 beatdown last night on our way in. Ken, I said at the start of the show, you can really look at last night's game as either a glass half full or glass half empty. Were they good enough to beat the Vegas Golden Knights most nights? No, they weren't, and I don't think you could really make that argument. But they found a way to be up 2-1 with 3 minutes left, and ended up taking a couple penalties that really put that in peril and almost lost in regulation. Now, controlled overtime for the most part. A really unfortunate miscommunication / giveaway sets up a 2-on-1 and it ends up in the back of your net. So you leave that game with 1 point on a night that Dallas, Colorado, the Minnesota Wild all lose in regulation. You actually gain on the rest of the division. Right. But at the end of the day, this team still has a ways to go to match what Vegas is able to do on a nightly basis. Where are you? Glass half full, glass half empty, or somewhere in the middle on last night's game?
Well, Huss, you know that my personal well-being is always at a glass like about 15th, 16th full. But in terms of the Jets' effort, I would say it was in the half full variety, maybe probably even above half full in some ways. But again, you can't play that. Let's just put it this way: you can't play that type of game and expect to win 4 of 7. Is how I would put it. You might win 1 playing that way, but Vegas did what Boston could not do, Huss, which was take away the middle of the ice. Jets did not get to the blue paint very often, with the exception of the Nikita Chibrikov goal, which was exceptional job by him. Excellent zone entry by Cole Perfetti. Really smart play by Nemestikov with the low shot, creating the rebound. But Vegas sort of had them in a vice grip for most of the first 2 periods. And Huss, 4 shots in the first, 2 of them were on the same sequence that led to the goal. So that's a long time without being able to generate very much for, a team that lit up the Bruins for an 8 spot 2 days earlier. And we knew it wasn't going to be the same style of game. Vegas has one of the biggest and most mobile defense cores in the NHL. So you knew it was going to be tough to get to those blue paint areas, but the Jets didn't do it enough. They didn't generate enough. They didn't generate enough speed. Forecheck had some moments, but again, and I would say on the flip side, Huss, even though they went almost a whole period without getting a shot on net, they didn't give up a whole lot. So if you're the Jets, the half full area comes from your ability to defend in that game. while only allowing I think they were outshot 3 or 4-0 by the time they got one in the middle frame. But that's not a template game for the Jets, Huss. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. Again, we know why people are up in arms over 2 late penalty calls by a young official. But again, you can't put yourself in that situation. I don't think the Jets sat back, Huss, when they got the 2-1 lead after the Morrissey rocket that was mentioned earlier, but they weren't. They just felt a little bit too passive to me in that game, Huss. And I explain it this way. I asked Scott O'Neill in the morning skate about the rush chances. I mean, they gave up 7 rush chances and 3 goals in the first meeting at the end of November. So naturally, you didn't want to get into a track meet style of game. Having said that, I think they were maybe a little bit too focused on the defending part, and they didn't get on the attack, use that attack mentality that was so effective and for them against the Bruins. So certainly some good for the Jets in that game. And I agree with Dylan DeMello. The third period was easily the Jets' best, even though they did give up the late goal. And I mean, Huss, we talked about it last night on our show. I mean, if Hayden Fleury doesn't get a stick on that Olofsson rebound chance in regulation, game's over, and the Jets get nothing. They go home thinking, "Oh my goodness, what just happened here?" But again, great defensive play. And I mean, you're right. I mean, Hayden Fleury, with the benefit of hindsight, would have probably liked to have waited a split second longer. But I think when he did the shoulder check, there was a player there. And if he got it to that player, they might have had a 2-on-1 instead of having a line change. And Scheifele doesn't think he can touch it because it's going to be too many men. And then, wires got crossed all over the place. And the 2-on-1 gets converted with a perfect pass by Theodore to a player that what I feel about, Barbashev, putting the dagger home for the Vegas Golden Knights there. So again, I think there were some positives for the Jets for sure, but let's not pretend like that's the game that's going to take them to a President's Trophy or 3 or 4 rounds of playoff hockey. I mean, and they would be the first to tell us that too, Huss. I mean, that's not their game. Having said that, they don't have to apologize for having a 1-0 and 2-0 lead in that game, right? I mean, that's.
No, listen, they were 2-1. Yeah, when Josh, because
sorry, 2-1. Sorry.
The and I think they look back, you make a good point about the way they defended, and it was true. I mean, they did a good job of keeping Vegas to the outside. That was part of the reason why Vegas had the puck as long and as much as that they did.
Yep.
But when you're spending the entire game defending, like Scott O'Neill said, you need to make more of your opportunities offensively. And I thought you made a good point last night, and maybe you can expand on it. I was sort of feeling this way too. I mean, the way they got burned in the previous game against Vegas, it seemed like they were so focused on defensive structure and making sure that they were in the right place and they weren't allowing Vegas to take advantage of them in some of the ways that they did before. It did sort of take away a lot of the pop that they normally have when they have the puck and going into the other team's end.
Yeah, there was so much easy ice on Tuesday, Huss, in the 8-1 blowout that I don't think the Jets knew that it wasn't going to be like that, but they needed to kind of find a happy medium in there. But again, it was important for them to do those things, to kind of keep the shots from the outside. Now, again, Natural Stat Trick had a very lopsided margin in terms of high dangers. I think it was something around 14-5 in that range. So to me, I didn't feel like Hellebuyck was under siege yesterday during that game. Yes, they gave up too many chances and too many scoring chances and too many shots, but I thought that Hellebuyck handled most of the tough chances fairly easily. I mean, Tanner Pearson had a ton of chances. Those were not easy saves, but a couple were 2 for $1 right on the doorstep. But Hellebuyck's got the feet to the pad stretched out. I mean, it's going to take a lot for him to be beaten on that chance, but the play that Keegan Kolesar made to Pearson in the third, now that I think was Connor's best save of the entire game. But overall, again, like I said, this is one of the games to me where the Golden Knights were obviously they were the better team by a significant margin. Now, I didn't feel like it was a shooting gallery, Huss. Now, part of that is because the Jets were committed, but they also, the couple breakdowns certainly. Vegas was let's put it this way. Vegas was very opportunistic in that game on November 29th. Probably the best game the Jets played in that 4-game losing skid, though they were pretty decent against Dallas also. But I think the best game they played was the one against Vegas, but they got burned on those 3 rush chances. So you can understand why they were worried about the defensive end of the puck, but there needs to be a little bit more balance in terms of what you generate and what you create when you're playing a sound defensive game. Because, Huss, like the reason why some people were concerned is because that's the type of game you're going to see April, May, June, right? You have a very stifling opponent that still has the ability to get up and go. And that's what makes Vegas such a dangerous team, right? They know how to win first and foremost, but they also have some of those qualities, like Colorado, except that Vegas is a bigger, stronger type of team. They're not as fast necessarily as Colorado, but they can hurt you with quick strike offense, even though they can be very sound defensively. So again, it's not a one game referendum, much like, the Wild getting blown out by Edmonton doesn't make them a fool's gold type of team. Losing 3-2 in overtime doesn't mean the Jets can't win and they can't beat good teams. Like, let's just flush that narrative right out right now. And see where things go from there. I mean, I think that the Jets have plenty to learn from that game. Now we know that that's 8 in a row for Vegas, 12 out of 13, all of those things. But those are just stats and that we like to discuss. It doesn't mean that they're going to win the next 8 or whatever else. And as I've reminded people, I mean, prior to last night, the Jets were 8-2 lifetime against Vegas in the regular season. So this recent regular season success is more of a recent phenomenon. And the Jets actually kind of had Vegas's number for quite a few years coming out of the inaugural season.
Vegas is one of the standard teams right now in
They're
the
gold
NHL
standard,
in the West.
gold standard.
And for this team that has aspirations of making noise in the playoffs, that is a perfect learning lesson that unfortunately they've learned a few times before of what it takes to beat a team like that playing the way they did last night coming in on the road. The one thing that I'll say, and we talked about the way things fell apart in overtime. I mean, the Jets are such a good overtime team. It's the first time they haven't gotten 2 points. They've never been to a shootout this year. And listen, that was just poor puck management, a bad mistake that ended up in the back of your net. But I think we could also say the same thing about the first goal. Like, as much as Vegas created and the amount of time that they had the puck, like that first goal came from just a poor puck management, not being able to get the puck out of the zone. And I'll ask you your thoughts on how that happened. I mean, to me, the puck goes to Kyle Connor. He has it. He loses it to Keegan Colasar. And I said out loud, I mentioned this on the show earlier, I went, oh, bleep. And then, boom, he fires it and, makes no mistake about it. But It wasn't just a giveaway from Kyle Connor. I mean, this had been building for a few minutes as the Jets were unsuccessful in clearing the zone.
Yeah, it was a tough shift for that line for sure, Huss. And, they were kind of, got a little bit scrambly. And then it's a shared responsibility. We know what the discourse is like on social media. So, yes, in a perfect world, Logan Stanley's pass is in a little better spot. It had to be crispy because there was a guy on him. Kyle didn't handle it particularly well, but it could have been a better play. So to me, that's a shared responsibility. But Huss, you talked about it. Like, this was a shift that kind of went off the rails for their entire group. And they had a couple other chances where it looked like they might have a chance for a cleaner breakout, and it just didn't happen. And then, like what you said, Kyle was probably saying that when it bounced off his stick. And then by the time he realized he had to he was still the closest guy to get a stick on Colasar, it was too late. So, for the people saying that Logan Stanley should automatically be benched for that play, I mean, I don't share that view. I mean, like I said, I think in hindsight, he would have liked to have made a better pass, but he was under duress, and sometimes those plays happen. So, opportunistic right there once again. And, Keegan Colasar loves playing in, his home province. He's delivered a few clutch goals there, and he came through with another big one on that scenario. And again, and in terms of I'm not trying to fast forward. I am going to try to fast forward to the third pairing discourse and debate. My timeline was filled with why is Logan Stanley on the 5-on-3? I mean, Logan Stanley has to be an effective penalty killer, or he shouldn't be in the lineup. Like, this is very simple. And, could he have played or taken away the lane a little better? Maybe, but Mark Stone's one of the best passers in the NHL. He didn't need Logan Stanley didn't just leave him there camping out to make a cross-ice pass. It was excellent puck movement. Eichel and, Shea Theodore had a great interchange. The puck got down to Stone, and before Logan Stanley could get his body or his stick in the passing lane, it was backdoor to Victor Olofsson. So, I don't know. I just think that it's gotten a little bit haywire, Huss. I mean, you see it in the chat room daily, but there's 3 guys on for the Jets and there's 5 for Vegas. And yep, there's times when Vegas's power play has had its issues. 5-on-3, most teams, that's an auto cash in. And in that situation, it was excellent puck movement that allowed a backdoor tap to happen. And it wasn't because Logan Stanley was on the ice and didn't do his job effectively. I mean, there's 3 guys who could have played it better, and they all share the responsibility. I mean, I know the other part of that equation too. Ville Heinola, 2 shifts in the third period, 12-10 in total. And now, Mike was at practice today, not me. Colin Miller looks to be drawing into the lineup. Now, it doesn't mean Heinola is not going to get back in the lineup. It doesn't mean the Jets lost faith in him. They're not going to play him. It means that this is a young guy trying to find his way, Huss. And right now, that's what he's doing. He's not dominating the way that some people expected. He's not ready to play 20 minutes a game. He's still finding his game, finding his way. I think that he's been fine, Huss. I don't see Ville getting beaten all the time or anything like that, or that he can't do the job. But he's having, there are some hiccups that he's working himself through. Same as Logan Stanley's had some hiccups in the games. Same with Hayden Fleury. Hayden Fleury also saved the game before the last turnover. So all people saying, oh, well, that's why he's been on 5 teams and, shouldn't be in the lineup. I mean, come on, folks. Everybody makes mistakes. So they also make a bunch of good plays during the course of the game. And when the Jets have 8, capable bodies like they do now, there's going to be some in and out of the lineup. I mean, let's not forget how Colin Miller played in the first 22 plus games. So, this isn't about a short runway or whatever else. Ville's going to get back in there. And I think his skating is coming along. But we talked about this a ton. Ville Heinola is an offensive guy. I have not seen Ville Heinola create a lot of offense so far. I'm not knocking him for that. I think first and foremost, he has to take care of the defensive side of the game, but he's not really a physical player, and he's not known as a defensive specialist. So if you're not either one of those things, you need to find a way to get involved on the rush, on the second wave, and supply a little bit more offense. So again, I think Ville will find his way, but this isn't a abomination how the Jets can take him out of the lineup or have him play 2 shifts in the third period. It just isn't.
No, I can't disagree with you on that. And listen, I mean, for all the discourse we've had about the third pairing, watching that game last night and the way things were going and what Vegas was throwing out there, I have to admit, and this kind of goes back to a conversation, I don't know if you caught it with Kevin Sawyer earlier this week, and I thought he made a great point stating, like, you could absolutely, and you would be correct in making an argument that right now, with those guys in the lineup and getting this run, it's probably not the lineup that gives the Winnipeg Jets the best chance to win tonight. But there's a lot more to it. You're giving these guys a runway. They have to find out what they got, what they have. And again, maybe this is a little unfair, but hey, it's pro sports, and you get what opportunities are given to you, and you have to make the most of them. And Chibrikov's a perfect example of a guy that's doing that right now. I can't help but think that when we get 30 more games down the runway here, and the Winnipeg Jets presumably make an add to the blue line, I'm not sure if either of those guys are in the lineup, Ville or Stan.
Well, it's going to be up to them. If they want to be in the lineup, they both have to elevate their respective games, Huss, whether they're playing together or with different partners. Their level, they're trying, like I said, trying to find their way. They, both had disruptions by injuries. Logan's had 2 disruptions this year by injury. They need to show that they can be counted on. And again, of course, the Jets are trying to win every single game, but the development angle, you can't ignore it here. It's on display. The Jets have, some more seasoned guys that have been in the lineup in Colin Miller, and he played a sound game for the most part. The Jets are trying to find out if those 2 guys, Stanley and Heinola, can be in their regular lineup, and it's up to them to prove that they can. And again, I don't think that after the sample size we've seen so far, either one has ruled themselves out of the competition, but neither one of them has planted their flag and said, you can't take me out of the lineup. That's not happened either by either guy. So I don't want to hear that, somebody's miles ahead of the other and they're getting the shaft somehow. They're getting plenty of runway, and they'll continue to get runway. But ultimately, the Jets are in the business of winning, and those guys are going to have to show that they can do the job. And even if they do show that they can do the job. They still might try to get another player in there that knocks one or both of them out of the lineup because they're trying to win the silver trophy, right? I mean, that's part of the deal. I mean, same as last year when they went out and got Monahan and Toffoli and Miller themselves. So this isn't saying...
Let me ask you this. Let's just say that the game tomorrow was a game of massive, massive importance that they had to win for whatever reason. We can assume that, let's just say it's like further down, like a game that they have to win. And this is a night that they're going to put their best roster out, and Dylan Samberg is healthy. Is there any question that the third pairing would not be Colin Miller and Hayden Fleury right now?
Not for me. I think that those guys would be the third pairing right now. Yes, Fleury had a turnover on the game-winning goal, but you don't take someone out of the lineup over one turnover. I mean, Dean Chenoweth joked about it on the last road trip when he said to Fleury, when's the last time you were on the ice in overtime? Now he's been on the ice in 2 overtimes. One of them went well. One of them didn't go as well. So this guy's an incredibly mobile skater. He plays a more physical game than Ville Heinola, even though he's not, necessarily a banger like Brendan Dillon. He's a smart guy. You can play him on the penalty kill. When he plays a simple game, he can be incredibly effective. Right now, it's more of an unknown for both Heinola and Stanley than it is for Miller and Fleury. So, yes, if the Jets were playing tomorrow in Game 82 and had to win to get into the playoffs, I think the pairing is Miller and Fleury. I mean, that's where I would be going based on the evidence that we've seen this year. But again, when you're a guy like Fleury, you got to constantly prove it. I mean, he's been on the outside looking in a lot when those lineups were made, but to this point, his skill set is ahead of Ville Heinola's. Now, Ville's had to deal with a lot of, stuff that not everyone has had to on the injury front and, stalled development at times and whatever else. But ultimately right now, yes, Hayden Fleury is ahead of Ville Heinola and ahead of Logan Stanley in terms of how his overall body of work is going. That doesn't mean he's going to be on Game 82, but right now, Fleury and Miller would be the third pairing that I would expect Scott Arniel to throw over the boards in a must-win game.
Well, and this goes for both of those two players. I mean, in Stanley and Ville. Dylan Samberg's coming back at some point soon, and
in the new year.
Yeah,
only.
So you've got 2 to 3 weeks
but...
when you get in. You have to take advantage of that. And listen, it's probably a little unfair for Heinola, just that with the last couple of years that he's had not playing, to have to kind of show and prove right away, but.
Welcome to the NHL.
Exactly. Welcome to the NHL.
I mean, I'm not trying to be mean about it. This is the reality. If you're not in the lineup, someone has passed you on the depth chart, and you know what you can do? Win the job back. That's how you get the job. I'm tired of hearing people saying he won the job in training camp last year. That's a long time ago, right? And winning the job for Game 1 doesn't mean you keep the job. It's up to Ville to show that he can do it over a longer stretch of time. And I understand people saying, well, how can you show it if you're not playing? You got to do the things required to earn more ice time. That's what Chibrikov is doing. And us on that front with Chibrikov, I love everything that he's doing, but the takes that the Jets can't afford to send Chibrikov back ever again, those are also in wake-up territory. I'm sorry. It just is. This is a 2-game sample size. I love everything I've seen from him in 2 games, and I agree that he deserves a longer look. And I would even say this, and I said it last night, Chibrikov may have put himself into position where once Ehlers is ready, he might be giving some people hearing footsteps on the fourth line. And I like how the fourth line has played so far, but we're talking about production, and the fourth line has done a lot of outstanding things. They're not producing a ton of offense. So Chibrikov is a guy who's forcing himself in the conversation, and he actually has the skill set that actually can work on the fourth line because of his willingness to mix it up, go to the dirty areas, and his ability to shoot. And also, it's up to him now. He's not as defensively responsible as either Morgan Barron or Alex Iafallo, and not even close. And that's not a knock on Chibrikov. Those guys are high-end defensive players. But he's at least given the coaching staff some element of pause where you might actually consider it if there was an injury or something, if you wanted to change it up on a one-game basis. He doesn't only fit as a top 6 player, whereas Brad Lambert isn't as equipped to play on the fourth line right now.
I'd say the opposite. I mean, to be honest, I kind of thought when he got called up, they were moving Iafallo up.
Agreed.
And he would sort of be in that area, and credit to him for what he's been able to do. Just wrapping up that third pairing convo. I mean, you mentioned Ville Heinola. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I think that he needs to take more advantage of the ice time and the opportunity that he's been given while in there. But Stanley's in a whole nother area code when it comes to the amount of opportunities he's been given. And I mean, we've got this competition right now with other guys that, if we said, if they needed to win right now, are probably in the lineup ahead of him. I'll just ask you, like, this next month, whatever, the time when Dylan Sandberg is out, like, what do you think Logan Stanley needs to do? Or is he just been anointed a sixth defenseman and he's already going to be in? But what does he need to do to be not a guy that people are saying they're doing him a solid or they're just trying to see if he can do it, to actually establish himself as a guy that is going to help this team win and doing what they hope that he can as a Jet on the ice?
Yes, and folks, I'm not arguing that Ville Heinola hasn't had nearly as long a leash as Logan Stanley. For those who may be confused by what I'm saying, Logan is being asked to do a specific job, not a job that Ville Heinola will be asked to do, right? So his effective game, more effective game against Boston. What did he do in that game? He hit David Pastrnak early in the first period, and yes, Pastrnak had a one-timer of the ages, but other than that, how often did you notice Pastrnak out on the ice? So you need to get in the face of guys. You need to play a physical game. You need to be an effective penalty killer. You need to move the puck efficiently. You need to clear the front of the net a little bit better. If Logan Stanley is a big, strong guy, he needs to be a net front presence in the defensive zone. He needs to get clears on the penalty kill. Is he doing all those things every single shift? No, he's not. He has to do a better job on a lot of fronts if he wants to keep the job. I don't think it's an automatic that he'll be the number 6 guy going forward. He's definitely in the competition, and he's definitely had the longest leash. But it doesn't mean that he's going to have that. Huss, we saw it last year. People wondering for an example. Nate Schmidt had the job for basically 68 to 71 games last year, and then found himself on the outside looking in after a pretty effective season. So the Jets aren't just, and again, look at Stanley himself, Huss. He sat forever last year, and all of a sudden he played 7 or 8 in a row down the stretch. So this is a fluid situation on the third pairing. You don't just win the job on December 13th. So it's going to be a competition throughout. He's going to have to show that. I mean, again, Scott O'Neill used the word bully a few times. He's going to need to show a physical element, right? Drop the gloves the other day with Cast.
Can he? Okay.
I mean, he fought on Tuesday, Huss. I mean, that's not a long time ago.
Okay, right? Like, it's one thing about getting into a fight after you've just seen Trent Frederick go and take out David Gustafsson in front of you. Like, to be honest, and I'll just be straight on this, Charlie McAvoy ran Cole Perfetti with the headshot earlier on. Like, the time for him to do that was before then. And for all the talk about how big he is and how strong he is, we don't see it enough. The hits are like, I think he averages 1 a game. Like, I know what they have hoped to see in this guy, but it's just never been consistent enough. It's rare, to be honest, that he ever plays like that. Can we turn this guy into a, quote, bully-type player that the Jets desperately need now, or are we just trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and inevitably it's not going to be there?
Yeah, so only Logan Stanley knows that for sure, and we're going to see it because he's being given a longer leash, right? So he needs to do it more effectively, and no one's saying Logan has to fight every single game. In fact, it's probably more effective for him if he doesn't fight that often, but there has to be, with Brendan Dillon, he didn't fight 20 times a year either, but it was the threat of having to fight if you were not handling yourself in an appropriate manner. Like, that's the part of the game that Logan has to sort of incorporate. And it's an incredibly hard job, and it's not a fun job. And for everyone saying he should just do it all the time, I mean, if you've been in that job, you know it's not a great existence, but it's part of the deal at times. It's far more important for him to be effective in those other areas, to be a physical player, and to find, yesterday he found, what do we talk about the other time, Huss? Against Vegas, when Logan came back in, he didn't find Keegan Kolesar in that game at the end of November. Yesterday, he hit him on one of the first shifts. It wasn't a, wallpapering and knock him out, whatever, but he let him know that he was involved in the game. So you're going to have to do that on occasion. and with more consistency. And that would allow him to stay in the lineup as long as he's not making errors on the defensive side or, missing out in coverage. He's a guy that has to be good at box outs. He has to play an efficient defensive game, move the puck. And if he does those things, then he can stay in the lineup. But if he doesn't, I think the Jets will be looking at some of the other alternatives. Now, again, the balance between being comfortable playing on the edge of a roster, that's not an easy thing. Kyle Capobianco has done it the best of any Jets defenseman in the last 3 seasons, Huss. But if you're in that role, you have to do it. I mean, Dylan Coghlan came in for his first of the year and played well enough, right? I mean, it's definitely something that is going to be under advisement, and it's watching closely for, again, eventually the organization has to either see it or they're going to have to see what happens elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
and I understand that some folks think they've had a long enough viewing period for that, but the Jets right now don't think they're at the end of the line with Logan Stanley. There were trade demands a year or 2 ago, and they're still here. So they're not going to be here forever, but they're still here for a little bit longer. And like we said, now it's up to some of the guys in the competition to separate themselves from the other players. Otherwise, the competition will continue to unfold in front of us.
Yeah, listen, I guess my take on Stan is, I mean, I understand why they're doing this, and I understand what they're hoping to get out of him. And the Jets desperately need that. We saw it against the Boston Bruins. We've seen it at other times.
And quickly, just on that front, I love Logan's reaction, Huss, but now he's going to have to answer the bell because Trent Frederick is, he called out Trent Frederick essentially by saying he didn't have to fight Gus. I was on the ice. Come on down. The price is right. Well, Trent Frederick's a guy who has fought a lot of heavyweights. So I don't think that Trent Frederick had trouble finding those quotes. And if you're Trent Frederick and you want to show that you aren't just a bully and went after a guy who's never fought, you better find Logan Stanley. And if you're Logan Stanley, you better be ready to not only accept, you better initiate so that there has to be acceptance.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, I don't know. I'm still pissed off about that third period on Tuesday night for a lot of reasons. But I'll tell you what, if I'm him and I'm in that situation and I'm on the ice and I see what's happening,
let's see here.
We don't wait to get to Kastelik. And frankly, back to my original point, I don't wait for it to get to that point after what McAvoy did to Cole Perfetti. I mean, we always talk about this. This is the deterrent, so that doesn't happen. That happened to Cole Perfetti, and not a damn thing happened otherwise. They were still aggressor, and David Gustafson's in the goddamn protocol because of it. So
sure. And just quickly, Huss, I mean, I think that I asked around on the players who are on the ice in terms of was this a matter of Trent Frederick was saying to Gustafson, we're going off the draw. It wasn't like that. There was no precursor. The puck went into the Jets' end, and they were chasing it when those cross checks from Frederick were happening on Gustafson. So I don't think it was a matter of Logan let it happen. I think the play was happening. But Huss, in that situation, if Trent Frederick was saying somebody better fight me, absolutely Logan Stanley in that scenario has to say to Trent Frederick, you're not fighting Gustafson, you're fighting me. But that's not how that unfolded based on some of the conversations I had with Jets players that were on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just my point is if you're in and you're on the ice at that time, let's include that. To have a guy like Gustafson end up in the situation that he was unfortunate. I'll agree with you on that. I mean, it did happen somewhat quickly. But then it seemed like Kastelik was the aggressor on Stanley as well on that fight. And I go back to, you have this big lead. You're in the lineup for all of these reasons that we've heard. And Charlie McAvoy does that to Cole Perfetti and nothing. So, I mean, all I'll say is if that's your job and that's why you're there right now, it needs to be done in a far more proactive way than it was on Tuesday. And it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. It has been a big topic of conversation so far this week. Hey, before we go, just a quick thought on Patrik Laine and his return tomorrow and the Montreal Canadiens and what the Jets need to do to make this 5 of 6 points in these 3 games this week after a disappointing start to the 4 games at home.
For sure, Huston. Again, like you, I'm excited to see Patrik Laine on the ice. He's had a couple highlight reel specials on the power play. was unable to bat the puck out of the air yesterday, but I don't blame that on him. That's just a weird, quirky play that shouldn't have been happening, and he shouldn't have to have been trying to fish the puck out before it got in the net anyway. But just happy to see Patrick having some joy in his life after what he's gone through in the last year and change here. So first and foremost, glad to see him on the ice. Glad to see him finding the back of the net, finding joy in scoring goals, which is something that we saw plenty of in his first 4+ seasons in the NHL. In terms of what the Jets need to do, I mean, the Montreal Canadiens are, I'm not going to call them a broken team, but I am going to say that they're going through a rough patch here. Yes, they had some success of late, but 9-2, I mean, that's a demoralizing type of effort against a team that, man, Pittsburgh used to go through a week without scoring 9 goals, Huss. So that's an absolute beatdown. So, Marty St. Louis, man, I didn't hear the audio, Huss, but I saw the clips on some of the highlight shows yesterday. He did not look like a happy camper to me. And how can you be in that scenario? But Habs are looking for a lot of answers. And, this is the type of game that the Jets, need to take advantage of a kind of beaten down opponent and just sort of stack a game like they had on Tuesday, right? I mean, they didn't quite stack it Tuesday to Thursday, but they have an opportunity to, close out a homestand with some success after having a couple of wobbles against, Columbus. And again, for parts of the 2 periods against Vegas. So I would say that they'll be ready and they'll be sharp. They wouldn't have liked how the game ended yesterday. So they'll be ready to go. And they know they can't take any team lightly in the NHL. And a team like Montreal, if you get on them early, I mean, we've seen, it was a couple of years ago, right? That Canadiens game where it was a long evening for Sam Montembeault, from what I recall. And, I would think that the Jets are going to try to attack pretty early and play their structural game where they're aggressive in all 3 zones. And that's what's allowed them to have success against, whatever team that's in front of them.
Great stuff last night. We'll look forward to a Saturday night edition of KNR after the final puck drop to the final buzzer, I guess, tomorrow night, Wiebe, and then a full Sunday to check out a great NFL slate. It's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Have a great weekend, my man, and very good. Take care.
Appreciate it, buddy. There's Ken Wiebe. Give him a follow on Twitter at Wiebes World. And, of course, he'll be covering the Jets in the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press. All right. Why not question of the day? We're going to get away from Logan Stanley and the third pairing and everything this week. We are going to talk about Nikita Chibrikov. And, Ken makes a great point. I don't think anything is certain right now. I think it's more likely not that he probably ends up back with the Manitoba Moose. But when Nikolai Ehlers comes back, why not question of the day for not Autocorp but Waverly and McGillivray? When Nikolai Ehlers comes back, where would you like to see Nikita Chibrikov go? Because there's certainly not a spot on that second line with Perfetti and Nemetsnikov. If Ehlers is back, is there somewhere else in the lineup you'd like him to be? Do you like Ken's idea about potentially, giving him an opportunity to maybe add a little bit of pop to that fourth line? Or do you play top 6 minutes with the Manitoba Moose and you get ready for another opportunity when needed, because you know that will happen? Let us know in the chat right now. All right, we're going to head to Montreal in a minute. Huge thanks to Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And with Christmas just around the corner, get on down to Princess Auto and get shopping for that person in the family that loves great deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new for 2025 waiting for you at Princess Auto. Gift cards available, of course. And you can also, even before you go into one of the 2 Winnipeg locations or the Brandon location, check out everything available right now online at princessauto.com. Founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and a proud supporter of WST and all of our sports teams, Princess Auto, a huge part of our Winnipeg community, and waiting for you, Panet Road and Portage Avenue West. Hey, the weekend's here. We've got Christmas parties. Maybe you're needing to bring a bottle to a festive occasion. Head on down to Manitoba Liquor Marts before they're gone and grab remaining quantities of the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof. The elevated expression offers the well-known smooth, well-balanced taste of Canadian Club Classic, carefully aged and bottled at a higher proof for a full-body tasting experience. Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof was awarded gold at the 2024 International Wine and Spirit Competition. A great gift for the whiskey lover on your Christmas list. and a great pickup while supplies last, because once it's gone, it's gone. Pick it up right now at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts. And a big happy holidays to our friends at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists in town, serving Winnipeggers and Manitobans since 1946. So we head into 2025. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if you need a new garage door for your home in the coming year, talk to Wallace & Wallace with Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. All right, we have to bring in our pal Shaun Starr from Montreal, because a big game tomorrow night, the return of Patrik Laine. The Habs are going to be in an ornery mood after getting pumped last night 9-2 by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Jets will want to get back in on the win column. And you know there'll be a lot of Winnipeg fans looking to give Patrik Laine a big Winnipeg welcome back as one of the favorite ex-Jets no longer with the club. But to Montreal we go right now. And welcome in Shaun Starr from TSN 690. Shaun, what's going on? It's great to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Hustler, what's happening? Hustler with a ER at the end, or just an A? Like, I just want to make sure I get this. Are we going hustler or hustler?
You know, sometimes on the streets it might be shortened to an A, but the proper spelling originally is with the ER. I can't pull off the A that well anymore.
The good to see you. I'm so happy to be on with you guys. And obviously, as you let us in with the Patrik Laine connection, number 92 is a immediate fan favorite, Andrew.
Oh, listen, I really want to dive into Laine. Just before that, what the heck happened last night? 9-2?
They're a bad team. They're a bad team. This is what happens to bad teams. And I try to tell this to anybody that's willing to listen for a second. What did we think this season for Montreal was going to be like? Did you buy the in the mix narrative? Did you really think the Montreal Canadiens were going to be fighting for one of the top spots in the division, home ice in the first round? Like, how far were we going with this? Let me remind people, the Montreal Canadiens finished with 76 points last season. The projected point total set by Vegas odds makers, who are rarely wrong, set the over-under at 76.5 points. Like, what were we thinking here? 95 points? Stanley Cup parade down St. Catherine Street? No. So, like, welcome to how the hot dog is made. Everybody likes to eat it. Nobody wants to see how it's made. You've pulled the curtain back, Andrew. Welcome to the ugliness of a rebuild.
The funny thing is about the East, and it's gotten a little bit bigger of a gap, but I mean, earlier this week, we were on the program thinking, oh, Montreal's coming in. You're like, oh, they're at the bottom of the East. They got 25 points. The first wildcard team was 29.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly mid in that bottom half of the Eastern Conference. And I think we can probably put X's by 6 or 7 teams right now. But you really do have 10 teams that, at least right now, heading into Christmas, are not out of it.
No, and Detroit's a wild card team. You know what they're going to get. Like, let's just think about Thursday night's results in the NHL, for example, where Montreal got spanked in the third period. 6 unanswered goals, losing to Pittsburgh 9-2, right? Minnesota, at the time the best team in hockey, they got taken to the woodshed by the Edmonton Oilers, 7-1. Now, granted, Oilers, very good team. They're on the come up, starting to feel and look like they did a year ago. Dallas, one of the upper echelon teams in the NHL all season long. What happened to Dallas on a Thursday night? One of the worst teams in hockey beat them in the Nashville Predators. So, like, yes, I know parity exists in hockey, and the Montreal Canadiens, Andrew, I'll tell you, were set up. You know, on my show on YouTube, I had looked at this package of 5 games. It's the longest homestand of the Canadian season that ended with a 9-2 loss. Everything was set up for them. They were playing teams around them, competitively speaking. They had one game, Washington, as a better club of the 5 games they played on this now completed homestand, right? And most of those teams, Washington included, were played the day before they came to Montreal and played the Habs. So, like, management, and I could tell you this, management in Montreal was looking at this 5-game window basically through the lens of, this is an audition for several players, an audition for the coach, an audition for the core, an audition for the project on defense, and to a certain extent, even the goaltenders. And I can sit here and tell you, In the morning after a 9-2 drubbing, the Montreal Canadiens, several of their players passed an audition. I don't think Ken Hughes or Jeff Gorton, the upper management here in Montreal, need to have a Hockey Canada-esque summit to tackle the matter at hand. This is a rebuilding team. They're not a very talented roster, and sometimes 9-2 beatings happen.
You mentioned the coach.
Yeah.
What's Marty St. Louis' situation right now? I mean, we all remember. Got to be the first NHL coach ever to go from coaching 13-year-olds right to one of the most storied franchises in all of pro sports. But, it's been a little while. How much pressure is on him right now to keep this thing moving forward this season?
Zero. As far as I'm concerned, zero. I believe Martin St. Louis is the right coach at the perfect time for Montreal, where he's learning how to do it, his teammates are learning how to do it, and they're all coming together at the same time. And it's not to say there's no accountability. There is accountability. And Martin St. Louis, one of his greatest strengths, I believe, is his relatability factor. First ballot Hall of Famer, Vermont Catamount, undrafted. Everything this guy had to do was an uphill climb, and he did it, and he accomplished it. So I think players look at him and relate to him and believe in him. And I find he's a very measured communicator. He takes pregnant pauses and is very thoughtful before he says what he's going to say. And so I like to remind people when Martin St. Louis starts to talk, I think we should pay attention because he sometimes leaves breadcrumbs as a trail for us to pick up on. And one of those things is how he sometimes communicates about certain players. And that's why I'll take you back to there is accountability for a team that goes through prolonged funks. Like, I think the prorated number is this, Andrew. Once a week, the Canadiens give up 6 goals. It's happened 8 times. They've played 30 games more or less. So like once a week, they're going to give up 6 goals. And so as the season grows on, he starts to single out certain guys. Kirby Dach as an example, where he's coming back off a devastating injury. He is very much underperforming, to be kind. But yet he's getting power play time, gobbles of it, playing 16 minutes a night. He's on 2 goals, man. He's on it's not good. And he just got his 2nd goal this week. So it's been not good. But now Martin St. Louis is starting to look at him and starting to call him out, single him out, which he never did before because he's making fundamental mistakes. Like, you'll get a pass because you're rehabbing from a tough injury. But when you are not moving, clutching and grabbing calls, you deserve to get called out. So I like Martin St. Louis, and there are a few examples of why he's very consistent.
It's still, a very young team, as normally happens in these rebuilding situations.
Yeah.
How would you describe it, not necessarily the coaching, but more his management style of the roster, and particularly those young players?
A work in progress. Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki are juggernauts. Whoever plays with them, whether it's 5-on-5 or on the man advantage, like their expected goal rate, Caulfield and Suzuki per 20 minutes on the power play is like 3.4. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous number. And so they've got Alex Newhook to round out that trio lately. They've had Juraj Slafkovsky up there, right? And so Martin St. Louis, I believe, is about the process, and the process is getting as many reps in for your younger guys so that he and upper management, Andrew, can come to an educated decision based off a pretty good sample size about, is Kirby Dach a center? Okay, but is he a number 2 center for our club moving forward? Is Juraj Slafkovsky better paired with Nick Suzuki, or is he better paired with Kirby Dach? And so he's giving ample opportunity, and in the opinion of some in the Montreal market, it's way too much. And they'd like to see guys be sent to the minors, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, the patience being shown by Coach Martin St. Louis is another example of them being about this process and trying to figure out how to compete, win games, but at the same time rebuild, which is, I don't know about the strategy, but I think that's what they're doing.
Shaun Starr is with us in Montreal as we get ready for Jets Habs. Let's talk about Patrik Laine.
Yeah.
Listen, he's a very special player to people here in Winnipeg, myself included. I think there's a lot of people that still regret the way things went down with the Jets, and that, a player of his talent and show-stopping nature ever left. But, to see what happened in Columbus, especially last year, it was great to see him get this second chance. And honestly, knowing the sort of player and personality he is, I don't think there's a better place in the NHL for him. I was watching the Amazon broadcast on Monday night, and he had his goal early. And it's something to do with the way Amazon does the broadcast, where they have a much better miking up of the crowd. But at one point, Kirby Dach hit Laine with the pass just in over the blue line, and you could see him get ready to shoot. And it sounded as if 22,000 people in the Bell Center stood up at the same time. Yeah. And there was an audible rise of the crowd. And it reminded me of, the first couple of years here in Winnipeg. It seems like it's been a great start despite the injury. I mean, tell us about what Laine's done to rehab, but also how he is looked at by Habs fans right now early on in his Montreal career.
Well, I'll tackle the last question first. He is an immediate fan favorite. Immediate, right? Because like Winnipeg, Montreal is a smart hockey market, is a passionate market, and they know their hockey, and they know the BS players from the real ones. And Patrik Laine is a real one. His emotions, how he expresses himself, and being open with what he's gone through in the turbulent path since Winnipeg to Columbus and now to Montreal. And there was a moment when he makes his regular season debut and scores on the power play, and the roof is almost blown off the building, right? And then he does a first period intermission with our French broadcasters, RDS. And you know what he says when asked about the reaction? I'm not sure I deserve this. The morning after, I come in and I'm doing my radio show on TSN, and I was like, Patrick, you deserve this, man. You deserve it. Like the path that you've taken to where you are, scoring a goal, being a part of this team. And that's the fan perspective. His teammates are in awe. There's a great photo I put out on my YouTube channel of Patrik Laine's first goal. If you have a chance, take a look at it. Cole Caulfield is behind him, Andrew, and he's bear hugging him from behind. And Caulfield's smile stretches ear to ear. Like everybody is happy for Patrik Laine, his teammates especially. They want to put him over. And last night, the Canadiens lose big time to Pittsburgh 9-2, right? 3-2 game after 40. Cole Caulfield has been an elite level goal scorer overall in the league from the jump. Still is. And wide receivers and goal scorers have egos. They want the ball. They want to be the man. They want to put it in the end zone. They want to score goals all the time, right? And that's fine. When you can do it, I want you to be egotistical. I want you to be confident, right? You know what Cole Caulfield's been doing? All he's doing is feeding Patrik Laine the puck. How many times does that happen? An elite guy who's projected to drop 40, maybe 50 if everything goes right? Look at that photo. I love that photo. I love that photo. That speaks volumes to me. That photo speaks volumes to me. And when Cole Caulfield is looking for Patrik Laine, what does that tell you? It tells me this team is together. This team in the face of adversity is together, which speaks volumes in my opinion. And they are so happy to see Patrik Laine because you guys know it. You know it. He is a star. His shot is of the, top 2% in hockey. I mean, it is that good. It is that heavy. And people in this market and his teammates know it, and they're showing him the love.
Well, listen, and that shot, I'd say it's, 2%. It might be top 2 on the planet when he's going. There's just simply nothing like it that I've ever seen. And the size that he plays with.
But he's not the fastest guy. He's not the fastest guy, but
no,
it doesn't seem to matter.
Well, you know what? And that's the thing about, and I think about players like that as they get older. And that's why it was unfortunate, sort of these lost seasons in Columbus and just the way that his career has gone. Because, this guy scored 80 goals as a teenager.
Yeah.
18 and 19 years old. Think about how rare that is and how hard that is to do. So we'll see it. But overall, it seems like he's certainly been embraced by Montreal. And, obviously you had that, it was funny. We were talking off air. I was in Montreal for the President's Cup. That was the Saturday night. The Leafs, Habs
the Cedric Carey game. Right.
That he got hurt at. And we were there downtown. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening to this guy. And at the time, we were sort of worried that it might be the entire season.
Yes,
but he's come. Sure, go ahead.
No, I got some information that because there's another prospect the Canadiens have. They chose him 5th overall in the generational draft, where the Canadiens, in their infinite wisdom, choose a defenseman in this generational offensive draft. And that guy's name is David Reinbacher. In that game, David Reinbacher's season came to an end. Surgery on his knee, right? Devastating. I thought more devastating than the Laine injury. This is the heart of the rebuild. That's the other part of the equation here is that, the Canadiens rebuild, the heart of it doesn't even play in the NHL yet. And Jacob Fowler and Ivan Demidov and David Reinbacher, that's the rebuild, right? So his season is over in the same game Patrick Laine goes down. And I had heard shortly thereafter that Laine's injury was even worse than David Reinbacher. And the information, I stand by it. It was the Laine camp that opted not for a surgical procedure. They opted for the expedited path of non-invasive surgery, rehab, blah, 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 so he can get on the ice. So that is something I pay attention to on an almost nightly basis, because I think sometimes players, they go their whole lives, Andrew, and they react, their instincts, they're the elite of the elite. And now you have an injury and, do you second guess your move? Are you thinking about how is my body going to react if I twist this way or if I take on contact? And I think that takes athletes a second to get used to again.
Hey, you mentioned Reinbacher in that draft. What's the inbox like every night Michkov scores for the Philadelphia Flyers? It seems like I hear a lot of people.
How do I end this stream here? How do I hang up on Andrew? Where's the end? Let me get out of this hellscape that is freaking Matvei Michkov. It really gets to me. It really gets to me. Only because of all of our favorite guys kept telling, look at the offensive draft. Look at the offensive draft. And they choose a defenseman on the right side when the next year's draft was the generational defensive draft. And everybody and their sister knew the Canadiens were going to be crap then too. So here's what I think has to happen for this to be a win for Ken Hughes, okay? Michkov does what Michkov does. Win the Calder, congratulations. I hope you dedicate it to Vladimir Putin. If David Reinbacher, 2 years from now, Andrew, is playing 24 minutes a night of very good defense, playing a top 2, top 3 role in the Montreal Canadiens, that will be, in my head, that will be a win. That will be a win. Michkov is going to do what Michkov is going to do. I can't sit here and tell you that I know for certain that he pulled the Jagger and said, don't draft me unless you're Philadelphia, because that was the story, And we've been trying to confirm it and look into it. We speak to Darren Dreger. We speak to everybody. Nobody seems to know anything. At least they're not telling me. And this organization needs David Reinbacher to be a very boring, fundamentally perfect, minute-eating defenseman for this to be a win.
Well, and the thing is, with a complete year loss, he was injured last year. It's not going to come as soon as Habs fans, I think, will want it.
Wait a minute now. You know who's coming, though? Demidov. Ivan Demidov is coming. Lock it in. 100-point guy for the Montreal Canadiens for the first time since Mats frickin' Naslund in 1985. The Canadiens haven't had a 100-point guy since 1985, Andrew, but it's coming and his name is Ivan Demidov.
Well, who knows? Maybe a guy like Nick Suzuki might be able to take a run at that.
Maybe.
What were you surprised that he was? We've had our own conversations about Mark Scheifele in the season he's had not making Team Canada Four Nations Cup. What were the expectations in Montreal beforehand, and were people surprised it was Montembeault as opposed to a Suzuki that got the call?
I think it was set up. I think a lot of people here kind of knew the writing on the wall that Nick Suzuki didn't take on Team Canada, and I love Team Canada. It's like, if you don't take our call, you're dead to us. I'm like, really? Like, you're going to score 50 goals and 110 points, and you're not going to invite this guy because he said no to you because he wants to get engaged to his fiance in the Caribbean? Like, I don't know. Hockey Canada, whatever. They have their own issues. I wasn't shocked. Like I said, I think the writing was on the wall for 14, and to take it to Sam Montembeault, he deserves the opportunity. I do believe. And I don't think because he plays on a janky team and his numbers aren't the best. To me, it's like his numbers should be worse. I choose to look at it as a compliment, to a testament to how hard this guy has fought. He was a waiver claim. I don't know how many people are aware. He was a waiver claim. The Canadiens got this guy off waivers. He's had like a .950 save percentage for the better part of 3 weeks. For me, he's a full value nominee. The one guy you didn't mention that was surprising to me was Cole Caulfield. Not on Team USA's roster. Like, I look at some of the guys that they have there, and that's a juggernaut of a team. But maybe you can make a case, and it might be a homerism take, but I think I'd rather have Cole Caulfield than Brady Tkachuk on that roster. But that's just my style. I like goals. I want a lot of goals.
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable that when you're putting together stacked rosters and teams that the minute you go away from just taking the top most lethal offensive players, we get into some interesting conversations. And certainly, I mean, you could put a free agent team of Canadian and Americans that didn't make the team that I think would be able to compete with many of them. Hey, speaking of the Four Nations, I mean, listen, I think like most hockey fans, I cannot wait to see it. We've been waiting 10 years to see a legitimate best on best game between Canada and the United States. I know it's shorter. I was a little surprised to see the ticket availability when I was checking it up right now, and it doesn't seem to be. But then I looked and saw how much the tickets were. What is your take on the response to this event in Montreal? How do you think it will go? But is there a reason why you can still fire up Ticketmaster right now and get seats?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the price point. That's it. That's everything here, you know. And I know, the Prime Minister's going to give us a nice little tax-free little end to the month of December, you know, so you can get your Timmies and get your groceries. And it's funny, you know, I just spent $200 last week on my groceries. I said, let me look at the tax in Quebec. In Quebec, you know, my tax was $4. I'm like, thanks, cool. So, like, you know, the cost of living is brutal. The fact that other than Sam Montembeault, there's not a lot of buzz in this market for the local contingent of players. And then the lack of marketing really, I think, hasn't helped that much. And TSN, puts a lot of ads on, but it goes to show you that sometimes hockey still has a long way to go. Like, we're doing this in mid-December, you and I, right now. Christmas season is right around the corner, obviously. You can't buy a Four Nations sweater. You want to represent the Suomis in Finland? You know when you can buy that? In January. Like, what? like who operates a business this way? You know, like, talk about dropping the ball. You want to buy memorabilia? You want to buy swag to fill a stocking? You want to buy your kid a Team Canada jersey? You know, like, you can't do it until January.
It is. And again, I mean, I don't pretend to know what goes into the manufacturers and the deals that they have, but the fact that we are 2 weeks away, I mean, Royal Sports, our good friends, one of the biggest sports stores in Canada, is just down the street. Yeah. They have more inventory. They sell more stuff than pretty much anyone. If they had 200, 300, 400 Team Canada Josh Morrissey jerseys ready to go, they'd be done by the end of the weekend. But
free money. It's free money.
But we will wait on that. When the event happens, though, do you think that it will be? You know, I mean, listen, Montreal is an incredible hockey market. To me, it's one of the perfect places to have this event. Is this just sort of a slow build, and by the time that we get to the middle of February, I mean, it is going to be the big deal that I think we all hope it will be?
I would put a pack of Haribo gummy bears on something like that. That's exactly what's going to happen. And Montreal is a lot of things, and one of the things that my favorite city in the world is, it's a walk-up town. I lived it as a boy growing up, going to Expo games when we had a Major League Baseball team. You know, the amount of people that flood out of the subway, and let alone, I mean, if you really want to move the needle, Andrew, you know what really gets people out of their seats here? $1 hot dogs. $1 hot dogs with 50,000 at Olympic Stadium on $1 hot dog day is so embarrassing. But this is a walk-up town, and the hype is going to be there. It's just just by nature, we're a slow burn city.
Well, I got to tell you, Shaun, this has been a real pleasure having you on the program. Best of luck with the YouTube channel. And again, folks, if you want more great Habs content, go to YouTube, search Shaun Starr with 2 R's. It is the Shaun Starr Show, growing every day. Some great analysis on the 9-2 beatdown last night. And some more coming up. Should be fun. I know there's going to be a very, very warm welcome for number 92, formerly our number 29 tomorrow night.
Is he going to get, here in Montreal, sometimes like they like to boo guys. Like when Pacioretty came back, so former captain, they booed his ass. Like they're going to give Laine a lot of love on Saturday?
Oh, yeah. Laine's different. I mean, there's no one... Like, listen, there of any player that's been here outside Dustin Byfuglien, who's just sort of disappeared and is sort of a legend around these parts. Mm-hmm. For players that have left, I don't think there's any question. Laine is the most beloved. And listen, he didn't leave as a free agent. I mean, he was traded. This wasn't on him, and we don't want to relitigate it. But I mean, it still goes back. There's a lot of bar top conversations amongst Jet fans about what happened 2019, 2020 that had him leave. But listen, for the team, it's turned out well. I mean, they turned into Dubois and then completely fleeced the Kings on that trade. And you got Velarde and you've got Iafallo and you got Kupari that are all big parts of it. But, he will get a very big welcome back because I think bottom line, just from a human part of the story, he gave so much to Winnipeg Jet fans and was such an incredible part of that era of Winnipeg Jets hockey. And then has had such a tough time. I mean, it's not like he jilted the city and went on and has starred. And people want to see him do what he did for us, which was pull people out of their seats and score goals like very few can in the NHL. So hopefully there won't be too many tomorrow night. But overall, I know people will be really be pulling for him. And it's great to see the way he's been embraced in Montreal. He seems to be perfect for that market. And I'd love to see these next couple of years go well and, him continue doing what he's doing because when he is on, there's very few players as exciting as him.
Now, I know you were here in Montreal for the President's Cup. You're going to go to Bethpage for the Ryder Cup?
You know what? It's funny. I've been to last two Ryder Cups here in the States. I saw the ticket. What kind of reminded me of what the Four Nations was trying to get people in for some of these tickets. That golf, like all of pro sports, and this is maybe a bigger conversation, Shaun, from market to market, but they are realizing that there is only so much more that you can squeeze out of the average fan. And for an event like that, listen, golf is a very rich sport. So good on them. If all your goal is to squeeze every single dollar out of the event, do what they're doing right now. But if you think that event with $1,000 tickets is going to have the same energy and cachet of the other Ryder Cups, you're absolutely kidding yourselves. And I think that goes a lot to NHL hockey right now, maybe more so than others because of how dependent they are on the ticket buying fan without the revenues of television that some of these other has. And, we're seeing it right now. I mean, in some markets more than others, but it's all going in the same direction. The average guy has a real tough time. I mean, buy season tickets, are you crazy? They're lucky to get to a few games right now. And that's a concern, I think, for sports overall, especially with the other options for doing it. But Bethpage would be amazing. I mean, those New York crowds are famous. I just hope those people are able to get there because of what they're trying to bend people over for to get on the course.
I got to get out to Winnipeg, man. I need to check out the golf scene in Winnipeg. I'll even give you shots too. What's your handicap?
Yeah, well, it's probably far off of yours. I see that pro bag in the back, Shaun. Where you got? Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll team up with you. We can take a couple suckers out. Tell you what,
let's do it.
Open invitation at Breezy Bend when if you can make it out here. We'll get the gang together. Some of our friends, they take very good care of us there. Would love to have you out and certainly roll out the red carpet. Maybe when the Owls are playing the Bombers, you get the chance to see the best environment in the Canadian Football League.
Man, now we're cooking with gasoline. That is a bucket list item for me. And the Owls won't even have Cody Fajardo next year. He's probably going to Saskatchewan. But love being on the show today, man. Lots of fun with you guys. Thank you so much.
You know what? This was awesome, Shaun. Let's do this again soon. It doesn't have to be just when the Jets and Habs are playing. And obviously, great to see that you're still doing your thing there in TSN. But taking this to the internet, I think, is a great call. And again, folks, if you want more great content on the Habs and more, at Shaun Starr on YouTube, give Shaun a sub and pop by and leave a comment as well. Shaun, enjoy the game tomorrow night and have an awesome weekend.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michael. Andrew, thanks, and we'll catch up again soon.
All right, fun stuff with Shaun. Great stuff. And as I say, check out Shaun's YouTube channel. And, of course, you can also check online if you ever want a little bit more on the Habs in English to get his show on TSN 690 in the morning. Appreciate having him on the show. Now, Hacksaw is going to come up with us in just a moment. A couple things I need to get you from our friends, the Winnipeg Jets. Now, first and foremost, a week tomorrow is the holiday game and the festive WST holiday gathering in Section 316 for our game of the month. If you haven't already, gang, join us. Grab your tickets. There's a link in the description, but it's a very simple one. WinnipegJets.com/WST. Saturday night is the night. Now, against the Minnesota Wild, of all teams. So hopefully you'll join us. It should be a very, very fun evening. Hopefully the Jets can finish a season sweep against the Wild, and we will all go off on our holidays in a great mood. But the Jets also have a bunch of things going on. Tomorrow night's game against the Habs, 150 giveaways courtesy of Sport Check. The grand prize is a Super Deker Pro 2, a stick handling pad that feels like real ice, in addition to holiday prize packs valued at $400 each and more surprise giveaways. And then for our game against the Wild, the WST night, it is the holiday game. Fans are encouraged to get into the spirit by wearing their holiday best, whether it's a Santa hat, Grinch shirt, or your favorite ugly sweater, and can win some exciting holiday prizes perfect for holiday gifting or decorating. So great couple of games coming up, and then a big slate from the 28th right through the first week of January, which will keep you posted on all of that. Listen, it is Beer Friday, so before we bring in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, how about a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
Day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Yeah, of course, you can pick up Little Brown Jug at select Boston pizzas in the city, including BP Polo Park. And speaking of BP, right now, when you buy a $50 Boston Pizza gift card, you'll receive a $10 free bonus card. And if you've got a long gift list or need to buy for your company or office, if you're purchasing $1,000 in gift cards or more, you'll receive an additional 10% bonus, which works out to 30%, i.e. $300 in gift cards with any purchase of $1,000. So make that happen. Nice little extra value from our friends at BP. And don't forget about the holiday menu on right now with the new spicy shrimp fettuccine and the rib and wing duo, which I had a couple nights ago, which was absolutely phenomenal. Great spot to watch your Winnipeg Jets and NFL Sunday as well at your local Boston Pizza. And just before we bring in Hacksaw, don't forget, folks, as you race to get all your Christmas shopping done, get down to Royal Sports and take care of every sports fan on your list with that amazing new hat wall that Michael Remis mentioned a little earlier today, with every NHL team represented, the biggest and best selection of Jets hats, including many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else, and all that Bomber gear for the Bomber fan in the family. In addition, the biggest hockey section in town, sticks, skates, equipment, right down to skate sharpening, pucks, and sock tape, and so many cool gift ideas over on the King Skate, Snow, and Surf side. Now, your best bet is just to get down there, 750 Pembina Highway, but check them out and give them a follow on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and of course, great holiday gift ideas at the undefeated, undisputed sports superstore in town for over 40 years, Royal Sports. We'll get to fan feedback for fans first after we welcome in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, who comes rolling in for the NFL Notebook. Hacksaw, what'd you think about that Chiefs-Chargers game last Sunday?
Kansas City's living on borrowed time. I apologize in advance. You may be 12-1, but that's not vintage Kansas City Chiefs football. But that being said, Pacheco is back. Marquise Brown returns to practice on Monday, and he will be ready come playoff time. Kelsey's had a great season. The biggest issue in Kansas City is they have negligible talent at left tackle and right tackle. And everything Mahomes is doing is freelancing and running for his life. And that's why the explosiveness in their offense has kind of gone away. I'm kind of stunned after a couple of years of the guy at right tackle and rotating guys at left tackle. They haven't solved it. And they got to go into the marketplace, either in free agency or somehow in the draft. They got to find a quality left tackle and maybe even a quality right tackle. You know, they let Orlando Brown go, and he wound up in Cincinnati. And he was probably the best of what they had. And I don't think he was a Pro Bowler. But they got issues. And I'm sorry, Andrew, in advance again. I apologize. But you're not going to be playing the freaking Carolina Panthers or the Cleveland Browns the first week of January in the playoffs. So maybe it'll be better to get all these injured guys back. But, hey, Patrick Mahomes finds a way through Andy Reid to create plays, make plays, and to keep winning all these close games.
You know what? You mentioned the guy. It's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the game against the Chargers is a perfect example. Things weren't going well for them overall. The defense gave up those 2 touchdowns. All of a sudden, they're down 2 with 6 minutes left. And what separates Mahomes from every other quarterback in the league is what he does on third down. And, I mean, those 2 third down plays, and you were mentioning, I mean, the line is a real concern. And, you know, they brought Humphreys in who hadn't played all year. He had his issues. Wanya Morris isn't the answer. Taylor on the right side's been a bit of a disaster. But when the game is on the line, Mahomes, more than anybody in the game, maybe ever, is able to come up with special plays and find a way to move those chains or get the team what they needed. And it was funny. They needed every single yard of it because the doink for the division, I know that drove a lot of people crazy, how the Chiefs not only get a little bit of luck as well involved, but a lot of people were saying these same things after the Chiefs lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day last year. I'm sure everyone remembers. They've lost 1 game since then. So I will still ride with the champs. They're in Cleveland to take on the Browns, who are done for the season. And maybe, just maybe, they can win and cover a spread for the first time in like 2 months. Lee, before we get to the other games, and there's some big games, especially in that late afternoon slate. How shocked were you that Bill Belichick is going to Chapel Hill and becoming the head coach of the NCAA Tar Heels?
You know, it's interesting because I'd heard rumblings during the course of the early part of the NFL season that he was kind of making a tour around college campuses. Now, he's got friends everywhere, so, if he was in Birmingham just hanging with Saban, I guess I could understand that. Or he was at LSU talking to Brian Kelly, who he's known for a long period of time. And he was out here on the West Coast, I think, with Lincoln Riley at USC. But I didn't connect any dots. I just thought he was making a tour to say hi to friends in between his TV and streaming appearances. And lo and behold, what he was doing was gathering information. It was a fact-finding mission about what the NIL and what the transfer portal has done to college football and how major schools are handling it. And I guess deep in the recesses of his mind, he thought, maybe I can do this. I can bring an NFL projection of how you operate a pro football franchise front office-wise and apply it now to the big business of what college football has become. Was I shocked? I was a little bit surprised. But he's different. He's cut from a different cloth. I've interviewed him 3 times over the course of my career when I was the voice of the Chargers and the Seahawks. And, he's hard to deal with. He's boorish. He's condescending. He doesn't give a crap about dealing with the media. But yet I found him really unique and interesting to interview on my talk shows and the pregame packages that I did on our play-by-play broadcast because I didn't ask him about Tom Brady or the Patriots or certain. He was phenomenal once he got off topic and he'd talk about the philosophy of NFL franchises and how you operate. He'd talk about college football. He's a huge historian of the game. Of course, his dad was at Annapolis and Navy and actually coached at North Carolina way back in the day when Bill was just a young tyke. And then he's a monstrously impressive, erudite guy as it relates to global politics. He's a huge military historian. He's kind of like Woody Hayes. So he's cut from a different cloth. This will be fun. It's going to be radically different. North Carolina football has been irrelevant forever, maybe dating back to the days of Lawrence Taylor, and that's a long time ago. So it'll be interesting to see. But, somebody asked me on another talk show last night if your kid was going to go play somewhere and got a pitch to go play for Belichick. I said, I'd go. I'd send him. Because it'd teach him to be a complete football player, probably teach him to be a man. And that was the sales pitch that Belichick used before the Board of Trustees at North Carolina. I'm going to set up the infrastructure of how to operate North Carolina football like we do an NFL franchise. And by the way, I'll get these players ready for their next life. And that might be in the NFL, and we'll coach them up. Or it might be in society, going into the business world. We'll coach them up there too. He's smart enough to probably execute it. And I think the intangible thing is nobody wanted to hire him in the NFL. I was told that he was really angry that he only got one interview and then he got undermined by Robert Kraft after the interview in Atlanta. But, his reputation preseason, A, he's hard to deal with. B, he's, an autocratic leader. C, either side of Tom Brady, he didn't accomplish anything. And you look at the state of disrepair the New England roster is, those are all his players. They drafted all that. They don't have any players on that roster to surround the rookie quarterback Drake May. So his reputation preceded him, and I think Robert Kraft undermined him along the way, and Belichick's elected to go try something different. So it's a long answer. I was really surprised, and then I thought back, start to connect the dots and say, yeah, that makes sense. That's why he's hanging with his close friend Saban, and why he was out here at USC and with Brian Kelly and a couple of other guys in the Big Ten.
Well, as I said, it will be fascinating to see how it happens. It certainly gave a lot of people fodder for jokes about his 24-year-old girlfriend and going back to a university, but all eyes are going to be on Chapel Hill. A university that's actually put out some, highly drafted quarterbacks. Mitch Trubisky didn't work out so well. And now, of course, the Patriots guy, Drake May, also coming from there. But Lee, let's get to the weekend. Well, I guess first off, just quickly last night, 2 huge wins in 5 days for the Rams. They beat the Bills, which not many teams have been able to do this year, and then get one over on a team in the Niners that usually have their way with the Rams, completely changing around their playoff fortunes right now. How impressed are you with what the Rams did both against Buffalo and then tightening up in a big way against Brock Purdy and the Niners?
I'm really impressed with Sean McVay's leadership. You and I have talked all going back to September, Hustler. They were ravaged by injuries. I mean, their offensive front, they had 6 offensive linemen on injured reserve. And they're in the middle of rebuild defense because their legendary defensive tackle walked away from pro football and elected to retire. And what he's done is he's taken all these young kids and he's force-fed them, and they play hard. Man, they play on the edge. And they beat up Josh Allen, and they slowed down Buffalo, and nobody slowed down Buffalo. And now San Francisco's coming apart. The wheels are falling off there. They've got so many internal problems and complicated by injuries. And they hung in there, and Frisco really played hard defensively too, and they slowed the Rams down. I mean, that was a street fight. That was I'm tougher than you football, and it turned out to be they wound up getting the victory. So I'm impressed. They were 1-4 and looked like their season was over, and this would truly be rebuild. Now, he won't get any Coach of the Year awards, but he should get some Coach of the Year awards because he took kids and played them all, and they've won 7 of their last 9. That's a pretty good football team. Don't know if they can win the division. Don't know if they can be a wild card. I mean, they still got 4 weeks left. But, boy, what a hell of a job he's done.
Yeah, been a minute since they swept the Niners in a season. Of course, San Francisco put a fork in them. They are done. Just an injury-ravaged season of a team that was the betting favorite coming in to get back to the Super Bowl this year. All right, let's get to the games, Lee, on the weekend. To me, it's all about that late afternoon slate. Thoughts on the top games, starting off with the main event, the Buffalo Bills going into Ford Field to take on the 12-1 Detroit Lions.
Well, I said a couple of weeks ago, if Detroit could win the Bills game, they'd probably run the table, although they're going to play Minnesota the last week of the season. But they could run the table. They conceivably could be 16-1. And for them to be 16-1 with the mountain of injuries they've had on the defensive side of the football, they've lost so many people from their front seven. But Jared Goff, he's got a quarterback rating of 107. He's got 25 touchdown passes, and they pound it, they do throw it, and they just wear you out because they're so relentless, especially playing at home. So this is going to be a huge challenge for the Bills. And I just, as hard as the Bills had to play last week, and they've had virtually no practice. Pal, you're in Winnipeg. You're probably better in Winnipeg right now than being in Buffalo. They got 3 feet of snow. They've canceled practice 2 days in a row. They have not been on the practice field. They couldn't get the players on the New York State Thruway to get to the practice facility. They had to close the building. So all Buffalo has done are one walkthrough Monday when everybody was hurt, and there's Zoom meetings. So the Bills have had no practices at all, and unless they're going to do a walkthrough on Saturday. So Buffalo might be a little bit out of sync, or Buffalo might be a little bit tired because that was a tough game they played the week prior with the Rams. And Detroit's the real deal. Josh Allen's just spectacular. Hell, we've been talking all year about Lamar Jackson being MVP. You look at Josh Allen's statistics, throw, run, leadership. Oh, my goodness. So The Buffalo's more one dimension than they are anything. So I think everybody wearing Hawaiian blue is going to meet at the quarterback on Sunday in that game. I think Detroit could win it.
What about Bucks at Chargers? Love this game.
They got a problem, though, in L.A. Justin Herbert's hurt. He's hardly practiced at all. He's got 3 different injuries to one leg. He's got a bruised knee. He has a strained foot, and he's got a sprained ankle. He took some wicked shots in that Kansas City game. And it was odd. Nothing was dirty. Nothing was late. He just got tangled with a lot of guys who nailed him, including the cross-body block hit by Nick Bolton, which just I was surprised that Justin Herbert even got up from that. But he's got injuries at wide receiver. They don't have much of a running game. Their secondary is kind of shabby. But Tampa Bay has not had a great season, but Tampa does have Baker Mayfield. So you got Justin Herbert, who's got 14 touchdowns and 1 pick this season. And you got Baker Mayfield coming in, throwing the ball on every down. He's got 28 touchdown passes. I'll be fascinated to see if Tampa can hang in there and maybe make it a throwing contest, because probably going to have to be that way. But I just don't know where the Chargers are getting their offensive firepower. You know, they're 8-5 right now, and they still got road games left on the schedule to Denver and to the Raiders. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens to the Bolts over the last couple of weeks of the season, because Herbert right now is about the only offense they have.
Yeah, and you know, the one thing I'll say about Tampa is, I mean, they had the 2 losses to Atlanta. So Atlanta's still very much in it, despite the way they played as of late. But you think about those 4 games in a row that they lost. One to the Falcons. But, man, they were right there in games with the Ravens, with less so the Ravens. I mean, they lost by 10 on that Monday nighter. Overtime with the Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers. And let's not forget, this is the one team in the NFC that's beaten both the Lions and the Eagles. So they found a way. Now, the loss of Chris Godwin is significant, but they have the division and they control their destiny. So a win this weekend would be huge considering what else is on theirs. I want to just get your thoughts quickly on 2 other games. Steelers, Eagles, the Battle of Pennsylvania, and then what should be a great Sunday nighter, Seahawks and Packers. And if you think back historically, weird things happen when those teams are playing in prime time.
Well, let's just do something quickly in the Pacific Northwest. Jordan Love has become a superstar. I don't know if anybody around the league realizes that, or the fans, the media. You look at his numbers, they are phenomenal. What he's done with Aaron Jones, what he's done with a mixed bag of young wide receivers that don't have recognizable names, and their defense is much tougher and faster than it's been in recent years. So Green Bay could go in and beat them. Now, Seattle is a one-dimension team. It's all Geno Smith. He's got to do everything. And yet he's got, get this, Hustler, he's got almost 3,700 all-purpose yards. But he does turn the ball over because he's got to carry the workload there. So Green Bay could win this game. I just think Jordan Love is just taking this next step up to really becoming an established star in the league. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, the Steelers are living off their defense. They have a very pedestrian offense. It's a great storyline that Russell Wilson throws for 400 yards in a game and all that. But they just don't scare you because they don't have a lot of firepower, and they don't have George Pickens back in the lineup yet. He's got this hamstring injury that's not gone away. And they're going to face a Philadelphia team that is wicked on offense with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, and a team that's given them like 284 yards per game on defense. No doubt the Steelers' defense is phenomenal. I think they've got 29 takeaways and 32 quarterback sacks. But the defense is going to be on that field all day because I don't think the Pittsburgh offense is going to be able to move the football. So Tomlin's had a great season so far, and they're going to be in the playoffs. And they in Baltimore are in this rock throwing contest to see who's going to win the AFC North. But I don't think Pittsburgh wins this weekend.
Lee, great stuff as always. Thanks so much. We enjoyed the show, jumping in the O Canada crew yesterday. Of course, folks, follow Lee and give them a sub over on Lee Hacksaw Hamilton on YouTube, and fill people in on what's coming up on the website on the weekend.
Well, we do this podcast Mondays and Thursdays. The O Canada Network always rolls in when they're done listening to all the junk that you're throwing out there. And it's great to have them interact because I started this thing called Fans Forum, and we just get unbelievable response. So go to my YouTube channel, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I will ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's free. Then you'll get all the alerts every time we put something up there. We put a lot of stuff up there. And I have a website that's all written. And if you check it first thing every morning, you'll know every story there is in the world of sports. And dude does write a chunk about hockey. Actually, guy in San Diego wearing hockey gear all the time. So I cover your sport in addition to all the other sports, and you can cherry pick what page you want to read about. But check the website because it's very different. It's there every morning.
Lee, have yourself a great weekend, and don't forget about these guys. 13-1, awaiting if they can beat the Browns and continue to getting a little closer to that number 1 seed in the bye. And we all know what Andy Reid does after the bye.
You won't get upset if they get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round, will you?
Well, the good thing is that if they can get the first seed, they won't even be having to play in the first round. And then Andy Reid after the bye, feel free to go against him. We know what the numbers tell you on that. And then it's the Arrowhead Invitational for a trip to the Super Bowl. We're familiar with that.
You're violating the first rule of broadcasting. You know that. I mean, you've made your career doing what you do.
I'm not a big J journal, Lee. I just speak the truth. And the truth is that we can call them overrated. We can call them the worst 12-1, 2-time defending Super Bowl champion ever. I don't think there's a lot of company with them right now. But, hey, listen, they're just giving people lots to talk about right now. And they're driving people crazy while they're doing it.
Violated the first rule of broadcasting. It says right here, I'm a talk show host. Don't argue with a talk show host. You're probably going to be wrong. Hustler, have a great sports weekend, pal.
You're the best, Hacksaw. All right, there is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. All right, we've gone a little long. So last call, it seems like we've got tons of marble entries already. So we've got that. Let me ask you right now as we get to the as we get to the Coolbet lines, and then we'll get your thoughts and fan feedback. Give me your best bet for the weekend. But in particular, I'd like to know your favorite pick of, are you going Bills or Lions, Steelers or Eagles, Packers or Seahawks? Give me your best. And yes, I am I am seeing all of these. We got some good stuff for fan feedback. Let's quickly get to the Coolbet lines. What do we have? We got one game tonight in the National Hockey League. If you just can't go a night without watching hockey, here you go. Sens at Hurricanes tonight. Ottawa plus 175 on the money line. Carolina minus 211. Total 6. And if you like the Canes by 2, it's plus 123. Just looking, and the Jets have gone back from 12-1, from a 16-1 back to 12-1 to win the Cup as well. How about that? 5 teams at 12-1. Jets, Avalanche, Devils, Leafs, Rangers. Stars at 10-1. Panthers plus 950. Canes plus 900. And the Oilers, still the champions. Jets actually have a shorter number than the Vegas Golden Knights do, which is, I will admit, a little surprising. Vegas has been awesome this year and looked pretty darn good last night at 14-1. I encourage you all to download the Lock Shop podcast today. Or go over to Edmonton Sports Talk and check it out on the YouTube channel. We went through all of our best bets for the NFL. And we've actually got some nice little some combos cooked up. But just point spreads on those big games that we talked about. Sunday nighter, Packers are 2.5-point favorites against the Seahawks. The Eagles, 5.5-point favorites against Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Chargers are 3-point favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do like Tampa in this one. And then the game that I cannot wait for, and I'm sure you're in a similar boat if you like the NFL, Bills at Lions. Detroit, minus 2.5-point favorites. Also a big game for the AFC playoff race. Colts, 4.5-point underdogs in Denver. One other kind of important game. Miami is in Houston to take on the Texans. Texans 3-point favorites. And we do have the biggest spread of the year. The Ravens, a 16.5-point road favorite against Tommy Cutlets and the New York Giants. But if you go to the main page, we're locked and loaded. Here's the partner parlay with myself, Dusty, and Jake. Colts plus 4.5. We've taken the Bucks to plus 3.5. We're taking the Packers minus 2.5. That's got a nice boost, just about up to 6-1 from plus 518 to plus 595. And then I've also put together a little ride with Huss. I like the Steelers at plus 5.5. I'm taking the Lions with the extra rest against the Bills, -2.5. And for the first time in 2 years, the Carolina Panthers are a favorite in a game against Dallas. Give me Bryce Young and the Panthers. I like what they've been doing lately. They're 3-point favorites, so I've got it down to -2.5. That is +638. And if you like the touchdown scorers, we all picked one. I've got Chuba Hubbard. Jake's got Isaiah Pacheco. Dusty's on David Montgomery. Dusty's on Brian Robinson Jr., and I think Pat's on David Montgomery. Anyways, we're getting close to 10-1 on that, +945. Those are all in the combo cards. There's more in the Coolbet exclusives. So jump on that. Use the promo code WST if you haven't played there before at Coolbet for a 100% bonus up to $200. And make sure to check the promotions page. A great promotion every day throughout next week heading into Christmas with their 12 days of Christmas promo. And one other thing on Coolbet, next Tuesday, the night the Jets are in San Jose to take on the Sharks, is our next poker tourney. If you haven't played with us before, come on out. There's a bounty on my head, bounty on Dusty's head. Been so much fun. 9 p.m. Winnipeg time on Tuesday will be the next tourney. Jets and Sharks start at 9:30. So a little poker and hockey night coming up for WSTers and lock shoppers. Join us. Go to coolbet.com, click on poker, download the poker app, and then go in, check out tournaments. Just search Lock Shop and get your entry in, and we'll see you Tuesday at 9. All right, Reem. Quickly, let's get to some funny comments in the chat today. There was a lot earlier on about the Jets, but let's focus in on the later part of the show today. Of course, fan feedback is brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and reselling Winnipeg tickets when you need to do it. I know had an extra pair for a game earlier this week, went on to Fans First, sold them quickly, got a great deal, and boom, money's in your account the very next day. Great customer service as well. Can't speak to it enough if you do have that. Bottom line is no fees. And as I mentioned, the ridiculous fees I paid on that Vikings ticket on StubHub last weekend makes me thankful that we've got Fans First in our market and across Canada. Check out the site, fansfirst.ca. Well, Hacksaw's getting a lot of heat for that Leafs jersey. Royster, he shouldn't be wearing a dirty rag like that. Eagle Eyes, Hacksaw, banned from WST for that hoodie. Tough look, Lee. Matt Hyman, read the room, Hacksaw. Apparently lead. Hacksaw's trolling us. Frauds. That must be about the Leafs. There's no way that could have been talking about anybody else that we were speaking with. Rod Z likes to ride with us and add Green Bay for a 4-teamer. Rod, I will do that. We teamed up very well last week to make that happen. And Danny C likes the Titans at +5.5 or +5. I'm interested in how the Bengals come out after a loss that pretty much, or after a win that continued their season, but they're just so far out of it, not happening. Some other great comments in the chat. And Candace Jane says, I know what next week's marble theme is going to be. All right, great stuff. Keep your fan feedback coming in. Brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. All right, Remo, it is marbles time. We wait all week long to get to Friday afternoon, to get to the end of the show, to do a marble race, and it's warming up a little bit. The Habs are in town tomorrow night. Despite what happened in the final 3 minutes last night, I'm back in a very good mood.
Yeah, everyone's in a good mood on Beer Friday, right? And when you let everyone type in marbles, I think you forget about whatever's bothering you, Huss, and you just sit back and enjoy. Great to see so much fan feedback here on the show. So very fun.
No doubt about it. Well, listen, without further ado, let's fire up a little Tristan Rivers music and get ready to drop some marbles and get this weekend going.
Well, I get this ready. Tristan DM me. He did want everyone to know that he's got a new album out. His instrumental band, Sputnik.
Yes.
available at tristanriversmusic.com. All the streaming and buying links there. So shout out to Tristan for these amazing theme songs.
He has done it all. tristanriversmusic.com. Check it out, everybody, and support our guy Tristan. Hell of a musician and a hell of a great dude. Yes, Sputnik, Parallax, Volume 2, available now to stream and purchase. And he's wearing his iconic hot pink 7-Eleven hat in the photos as we pretty much always see him. So congratulations on that. He describes it, the long-awaited follow-up to Parallax Volume 1 from Tristan's prog-infused jazz fusion outfit Sputnik is available now. Stream on all major platforms here. And you can also visit them on Facebook or Bandcamp to get the album. So great stuff. And of course, he's also got some guitar lessons in there. Such a talented and creative dude. He's the musician and webmaster of the site.
Wow, so much talent there. He's also the creator of the multiple versions of the Marble Race theme song, legendary theme song. I got a good one here today in honor of the Yacht Rock documentary that just came out on HBO. Here it is.
Let's go. That is right there with my favorite of all of them. They're all great, but that one, and especially the way he says Oleg's fate at the end, it's just an absolute classic, Reem.
The backing vocals are incredible.
What's the story with this yacht? Like, I'm trying to think. I've heard about this, and I'm a huge Bill Simmons guy, and I believe he was behind this. But I mean, what do you mean a documentary about yacht rock? Like I don't even know what would I expect to see with the documentary about yacht rock?
HBO original documentary Music Box Yacht Rock, a documentary, debuts November 29. It is part of the Music Box series created by Bill Simmons. It chronicles the emergence and popularity of the West Coast soft rock pop culture, epitomized by musical artists such as Christopher Cross, like you just heard the version of the Marble Race theme song that was modeled after him, Michael McDonald, Kenny Loggins, Steely Dan, and Toto. Retroactively dubbed Yacht Rock in 2005 by a parody website series, the easy listening, relaxing sounds of the late 70s and early 80s, which were beloved by many, came to be greatly mocked and even dismissed by rock lovers and critics, but have since reclaimed their legitimate place in music history and are celebrated in this groove-infused film from the Music Box anthology series.
Nice. Eagle Eyes says he's watching the documentary this weekend and will give us our feedback on Monday. I'm appreciating that. And I guess, Rima, why don't you get the course up and get ready? We definitely have to put me in all caps, and Chibrikov is definitely getting a marble for his 2 goals in 2 games this week. One other question in chat while Remis gets that ready. Bridget asking, has anybody bought on Temu, which is that thing you see in your Instagram feed all the time? It's funny you bring this up, Bridget. I've often had this question myself. And I was out after the game, and some of the girls I was with, one had mentioned that they had just bought something on Temu, so I was asking those same questions. And she had bought a Mighty Ducks jersey for $30, and it was a bigger one. And everything she said was good. The quality was good, but the arms were super long. So I think the clothing stuff is maybe a little bit of a hit and miss, but if you're getting a really great deal, I guess you got to take that chance. I asked about other stuff, and the results were pretty positive. I'm always skeptical when I see those things on social media, just assuming right from the get-go that it's a scam. But I guess we've seen enough of them, and they're out there enough that maybe it's not. So if anyone else has any takes on Temu, you can let us know in the chat as well, as we try to crowdsource good information for people in this very busy shopping season. I would suggest it. Lynn Vivian says it's legit. Comment says Temu Solani's a legend.
Of course, yes.
Dan Jets fan says, isn't it pronounced Temu? And again, I don't know which is which, but anything connected with Solani is the thing. Oh, Warren Monroe, the ticket site references, it's fansfirst.ca. It is a great spot. You can check it out. Tell them that the boys at WST sent you. Mary Jane. Okay, Mary Jane, the conscience, the sweetheart of WST chat. Temu legit, and it's hit and miss. That's kind of what I thought. And boring Sean Monahan. Temu is the new boss. I love it. And Rod Z popping in with Daryl Hall and John Oates. Some awesome yacht rock. And then, yeah, Bordeaux, some expensive stuff selling for $159. I mean, yeah, that sounds like a scam to me. I don't know. Has anyone ever bought something good for $1.59 off that site? Let us know if you can. I will believe it when I see it. All right, Reem, where are we going today?
I had trouble picking a track. Dylan, I think we've used all the Dylan tracks, Hustlers, so I had to dig around to some other ones. I can't even read my own writing, but I thought one down them was okay. Wasn't my favorite.
How many marbles?
Lots. 230 plus the 2 that I added.
Okay.
It's
cold. This is a deep winter time. We could go slippery slopes.
I'm happy to do that. You know what? It's very icy out there. What's the other one? I might have to just do that because the ones that I found, I spent like half an hour just like trying different tracks. Maybe I'm too restrictive.
Slippery Slopes is an all-time classic. We pull it out when it's particularly cold. Sure. I have no issue with going back to some more Dylan tracks and reusing them. They were that good. Like, they are kind of spectacular compared to many of the others. Mm-hmm. But for today, it's the holiday season. It's been colder than it's been very cold the last few days. So maybe we just go Slippery Slopes.
Sure.
And when there's lots of marbles, it's always interesting because you do see some people get knocked off when everything's lining up on the skis.
Yeah, I can hit that up. I got it right here. We should mention, I do see some people from Edmonton in the chat, and I know people from Edmonton. We have a common enemy right now. They're not happy with Ryan Hartman, who took out Evan Bouchard on a very dirty play, interference, no penalty, no suspension. Bouchard banged up. I swear us, Ryan Hartman gets away with more crime than the Irish Travelers. It's crazy what I'm watching here with what's going on.
Oh, he is such a rat. I went on a little bit of a rant on the Lock Shop today, knowing that there'd be plenty of people in Edmonton watching it. And I said, see, now you knew what I was bitching about last year. Rat Hartman, public enemy number one. To us, Trent Frederick came. He was shooting up those power rankings this week, but Hartman is still number one for us. And unfortunately for your guy Bouch, hopefully he'll be fine. He got another very questionable, cheap, late hit from Ryan Hartman and was hurt in last night's game, which you don't like to see.
Man, Oilers Nation did some great work here, putting together his disciplinary history.
quickly, just before you do that, nice to see Matthew Tkachuk in the chat. Ryan Hartman is awesome. Huge fan.
But this is the only stuff that he's had discipline for. Fined for slashing, suspended for an illegal hit, fined for spearing, fined for dangerous trip, fined for slew footing, fined for unsportsmanlike conduct, fined for slashing, suspended a game for interference that was on Nikolai Ehlers, should have been way more than 1 game, suspended 2 games for tricking, fined for high sticking, suspended 3 games for unsportsmanlike conduct. I can't believe this guy is still in the league. Pretty gross. This rap sheet here.
He's a weasel. And that is another reason why you need to get your tickets in the WST section with us against the Wild next Saturday. WinnipegJets.com/WST. All your tickets will include a beer. Make sure you've got your Jets 360 app. And we'll unite together to give the Minnesota Wild what they deserve, which is a very, very rude welcome back to Winnipeg, despite the festive holiday season.
Yeah, I asked ChatGPT to come up with some festive holiday-related signs that we could taunt Ryan Hartman with. I think Ryan Hartman is a lump of coal or something. I don't know. We're working on it. We're working on it.
I'm sure ChatGPT got it. All right, let's work on this marble race.
Okay, I got it. I got that because, yeah, it's 2:30. All right, we got 2:32 in there, so... Thanks, everyone, hanging out here on a Beer Friday, right?
Yeah, Beer Friday. There may be one in my future shortly after this marble race. We'll see.
There's no hockey games on tonight. What am I going to do?
Maybe watch the Yacht Rock documentary.
It's up there. Here, let me bring it up.
All right, here we go. Chips McGee. Hartman is not right in the head. Jay Miller, the Bobby Heenan of the NHL. I love Bobby Heenan. I mean, Bobby Heenan doesn't deserve to be down in the Ryan Hartman category. He had his moments. All right, here we go, folks. Slippery Slopes, an all-time classic track. Shout out to our friends at Shipman Associates. The hoodies are in. If you win, we've got your size. You will let us know what that size is at winnipegsportstalk.com. And I know there's a couple people that still haven't picked up hoodies from wins in the past couple months. They're here next week. Actually, might be a very good time to pick them up. So send us an email on that, and we'll get in touch and set up a time for you to pop by and pick up your winnings. Without further ado, over 230, make it 232 in the hopper today. It is Slippery Slopes for the exclusive Marbles Champion hoodie from WST. Let's drop the marbles and see who prevails in the Slippery Slopes this afternoon. Here we go. Great start here. Oh, Bozeman with the nice start. My Marbles rival and my good friend making things happen. A top 10 start. I do not see myself anywhere there. And this is a race, I think, where the start is significant. Look at Yin Vivian. What's up, Yin? Oh, Chips McGee. I don't know how Chips just got tossed out there. That was kind of early for it. Clausen is in first right now. There's Stella. Oh, looks like Key just got top roped. Coming down to this next funnel. It's icy. It's slippery. It is the slippery slopes of winter. Eagle Eyes. Eagle Eyes, great performance in our poker tourney with Coolbet. I know he'll be back on Tuesday. Come and join us. Who else is in the mix? Clausen, Yin Vivian's right there. Destruction. Oh, Destruction in the mix. I think it's still Eagle Eyes number one, if my eyes don't deceive me. Sometimes the leaderboard's a little sketchy when we've got the turnaround like this. But yes, Eagle Eyes is first down, and actually with a pretty nice lead, although did come back a little bit for some reason. Clausen is next, it looks like. So here comes Eagle Eyes coming into the fork, but getting slowed up. There's ice on the road. It's kind of like driving in Winnipeg right now. Kind of slow. Eagle Eyes, first in. Clausen jumping onto the skis. Bravo Bry. Got a chance to see our buddy Bravo Bry last night at the game. Great to see you, buddy. So, this is where things get weird. And many marbles might be dropping. Oh, yep, a whole bunch of them. Oh, Bozeman got thrown over the top rope. Now we just need to finish. But who got first out there? Coach Mike. Coach Mike with a very nice move. I'm not really too sure even how that move occurred because everyone else is back. But Coach Mike right now, it seems like it is his race to lose because no one else has even got into this next fork. But the big question is, can you finish? But Coach Mike's looking like he's going to finish right now. As long as he ends up in the hopper. He's going down the big slope, the ski jump. Will it be in? Yes, it will. Coach Mike with the win. And that was one of those weird ones. I don't know how Coach Mike got the jump up. I think he was going to be out, and then he wasn't. What's going to be for second place? Who will it be? Oh, my God. Destruction second. Kind of worked by Coach Mike and the move that got him in the front. Destruction has never won. Been in before a few times. Stella Luz, third place. Benjamin Gann, fourth. D. Mikulak is fifth. Who is number... Oh, Sean Reynolds, brooding pessimism. There was a lot of that this week. It was a big week. Big week for Sean Reynolds, brooding pessimism. I'll look forward to K&R tomorrow night. Missing Monk, 7. Wayne Bretzky, 8th. Corey O, 9. And our guy, Julian Labossiere, number 1. All right, let's go down this list and see how we all did. Beyond the top 10, we've got Greg M, Voice of Vespu, Yin Vivian, top 20. That's nice. Mike Cochran, Winnipeg. The Wild Bang himself, Cam Thang, what is up? Rick Mahoney. There's Rick WHL, had some good stuff in chat. Matthew Kachuk. Rod Z. Nicely done, Rod. There's Big Uke, another one of the gang. There's Amanda, always contending here. Royster, Spency, the SMA, my buddy Todd Fertani. What's up for the weekend, Todd? No pun intended. Paul Carr. There's our buddy All Caps Kyle, Jay Miller, Markham Fanasuk, Lock Shop Legend, Pretty and Pionk. Oh, there's Hustler, one of the final one in. But that's a dub for me over Bozeman in our head-to-head bet each and every week. Everybody else, as we go down this list, did not make it to the end because that was a tough one. What can we say? The slippery slopes, when there's lots of marbles in, can be anyone's. But Coach Mike was the big winner today. Coach Mike, email us, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Let us know what hoodie size you want. I'll send you an email from my personal account, and you can pop by and pick it up at some point this week. Good stuff today, Remo. Big game tomorrow. Don't forget, everyone, WST Sunday Live with Connor and Liz will be 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. No, Liz is going to be taking the WST seat in the press box for the game tomorrow night. So I'm sure she'll have some great takes and feedback from the game. Of course, Connor will be there as well. And then Monday morning for you on your way to work, fire it up. WST Jets Weekly and Week in Review ready for you. And then right back at it for a big Monday. Looking forward to Monday's show to wrap this weekend. Look ahead to the 2 games on the road next week before the Wild come to town on Saturday. And we'll definitely have to get an NFL roundtable going on Monday, Remo, because first of all, Vikings are in action. Doubleheader with Minnesota, Chicago, and Atlanta, Vegas on Monday night. But we're going to have a lot to talk about on Monday coming out of this amazing slate of games in Week 15 on Sunday.
Yeah, we're in the fantasy playoffs, but we're approaching the end of the regular season. You know, when I think December, January, I think super wild card weekend. So we're a couple weeks away from that, getting down to it. So looking forward to seeing what happens this weekend. You know, MVP race, very fascinating. Although it seems like Josh Allen has got it covered. And yeah, we'll see who's the Super Bowl favorites. And can the Chiefs continue their winning ways in Cleveland against Jameis Winston. That's what we want to see. We want to see how are the Chiefs going to get out of this one. It's like that TV show where like this main character superhero, you always think he's going to die, and he finds some crazy way to get out of it. You don't know how he's going to do it. It's different, something you never even expect.
I disagree. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Once again, the hero is Patrick Mahomes. What predicament will he find himself in the fourth quarter in this weekend? Tune in noon from the Dog Pound to see, and we'll make it happen. But anyways, great games on Sunday. We'll break those down on Monday as well. And of course, has the latest on the Winnipeg Jets and hopefully some good news on Nikolai Ehlers, who again was back at practice today in a non-contact jersey. So I wouldn't expect him tomorrow, but fingers crossed we might see him in San Jose or Anaheim next week. A huge thank you to all of our sponsors. Again, if you can support them throughout the year, but especially right now at a big shopping time, please do. Feel free to let them know that WST sent you as well. And in the meantime, thanks to everyone for coming out for what was such a fun show today. Shaun Starr, Hacksaw, great stuff with Ken Wiebe. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'll be back up in the Upper Bowl. Hopefully we'll see some of you there. Should be a fun night. It always is when the Habs come to town. And really looking forward to seeing our old guy, Patrick Laine, wear number 92 with the Montreal Canadiens on in tomorrow's game. That's going to do it for us. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. We got to get this podcast up. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday right here on WST. Don't forget, Connor List, live 9 a.m. on Sunday with WST Sunday Live.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.